Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Hey, this time on the episode, I have a very special guest back again by popular request. It's George from the George and Tony Entertainment Show. Hi, George.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for inviting me back, despite the feedback that you received from your listeners. You know the old saying, Eric. Invite me once, shame on me. Invite me twice, shame on you.
No, no, no. It's all been very good, George. And
Thank you.
and and I'm just happy to have you back too. We had such a great conversation last time, and this time we're going to be talking about the July solicitations.
I had a lot of fun last time. Thank you for having me the last time and back again. And I do have to say, I've always wanted to do a show like this. So thank you for inviting me today specifically to join you to talk about solicitations.
Excellent, George. Why let's remind the fine folks out there in the podcast feed what the George and Tony Entertainment Show is all about and where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Well, the George and Tony Entertainment Show can be found on iTunes and other podcast outlets like SoundCloud and some podcast apps that I don't even know exist. And we're also at georgeandtony.com. As a reminder to everybody, we don't have a website like you do, Eric. We don't have a spot where people can leave us comments, unfortunately, or for us to blog on anything. So if you do want to get in touch with us, please follow us on Twitter at George and Tony and like us on Facebook at George and Tony Entertainment. We do respond to comments that we receive in both those areas, and sometimes we even mention them on the show. So please give us a follow, give us a listen, and let us know what you think. Our show isn't always about comics. We talk about everything, although lately my co-host has been MIA. So since I'm the comic book fan, I do tend to talk about comics and have guests on the show that like comics also. Eric, may I mention my last two episodes?
Go right ahead.
For instance, as an example, on episode 117, which as of this recording is the most recent episode that's up, I have Hope Nicholson of Bedside Press on, and she is the editor of The Secret Loves of Geek Girls. And she was an associate producer on a movie about Canadian superheroes called Lost Heroes, among a bunch of other things that she does. So please check out that episode and check out Hope Nicholson. And this week's show that will be coming out probably at the same time that this episode posts, episode 118, I'm going to have one of my local comic book guys on named Rich Gallhofer from Comic Logic in Ashburn, Virginia. And, what do you do when you have a guy from the comic book shop over? You talk politics. So it's a great show. Check it out, episode 118 at georgeandtony.com and the George and Tony Entertainment Show on iTunes.
Excellent. So politics. I assume you're talking about the Civil War II from Marvel, right?
That's right. That would be Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. And, I'm not quite sure what side Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz are going to choose, but we'll find out. We'll find out.
All right. Yeah, and George, just so you know, I really like the episodes where you have the guys from Comic Logic on there.
Oh, thanks.
I really enjoy listening to the people that work in the retail side of comics, and and the struggles and the joys and anything in between, for them to impart that stuff to me. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thanks. And they love coming here. Rich was here. Of course, he had to be drugged with some chloroform. He woke up in the room. It was kind of like a B.A. Baracus thing with the A-Team. And I think I used the same exact joke on episode 118. So if you could find that joke, let me know when you, via Facebook or Twitter. I think you used that same joke with Rich.
All right. Before we get started, George, there's a couple housekeeping things I need to do here, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
please. I'm going to mute my microphone.
So I just want to apologize to the listeners out there. You may have heard in my voice, it's a little froggy. I woke up with a sore throat the day that George and I were going to record this episode. Hopefully it won't be too bad and it doesn't crack too much. So I beg your forgiveness. And also, I wanted to remind everybody, this episode is sponsored by my good friends at Cover Me Tees. That's Cover Me, Tees, covermetees.com. They are the fine folks that produced my new logo for the website and the podcast, and also printed me up some nice shirts that I wore to Emerald City Comic Con. So if you're looking for some custom tees or some sort of graphic design stuff, Cover Me Tees has you covered. So, George, I want to ask you a question before we get started here.
Sure.
How does it feel to be on the final episode of the Long Box Review podcast?
Wait, what? Huh? What? I I didn't get that memo. Wait a minute.
No, no, no.
What happened?
I'm teasing. It is the final double-digit episode.
Oh,
This will be episode 99.
oh. Then I feel very honored. And you had me worried there. I'm thinking to myself, man, you went through all the trouble to get a fantastic new logo that I love. That I'm going to ask you, how am I going to order one of those T-shirts? So uh, you scared me there for a minute. You really did.
Well, there might be some people out there going, "Well, finally, the guy's done. I can rejoice."
Well, you can't stop until you hit the triple digits. That was a rule Tony and I had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. So I'm starting to plan for episode 100. Oh, I
Nice.
guess this would be a perfect time to remind the fine listeners out there that if you have some feedback for me as far as topics, or if you just want to provide any kind of feedback in terms of, like what's your favorite episode, or what's your favorite moment from the last 99-ish shows that I've put out in the podcast feed, please let me know. You can go to longboxreview.com, and there is the contact tab where you can get a hold of me. And I'll talk about the various ways you can get a hold of me at the end of this show. So, with that out of the way, George, let's talk about the July solicitations
Let's do that.
that have come
Yes.
out. So,
Al-
this
Although I must say this, Eric, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
go ahead.
but coincidentally, you are on episode 98 of my show. So very close. We came very close that we were both on the same episode number of each of our shows.
Yeah, yeah.
We, we, we almost did it.
There for a while, when we first started communicating
Uh,
online, George, our shows were about the same number, I think. But you
I think
guys,
you're right.
you guys do one a week, no matter what, and I'm simply not that dedicated.
Well, like I told you, man, chloroform. When my co-host can't be here, you chloroform some guest, you bring him to the Boiler Room studio, and you have a show.
There you go.
Mhm.
That's one way to do it, for
Yeah, well,
sure.
yeah. Skirt the law.
There you go. Let's see. So George is actually looking. He actually has a copy of the latest copy of previews.
Yes, it will be a
I
paper shuffling.
That's right. So, but I do not, because of the way that I get my books and I get my previews catalog. They actually will be coming the following week after we record this. So I'm actually looking on various web pages out there on the interwebs for these advanced solicitations for material that will be shipping mostly in July, and we'll just go through the regular order, George, for
Okay.
previews. So what I have up here first is, oh wait, did we want to talk about let's talk about Free Comic Book Day before we do that,
Oh yeah.
because that's coming up. That is the first Saturday, right, in May.
May 7th this year.
So this episode should be out before then. That's my plan anyway. So this would be a perfect time to talk about Free Comic Book Day. So George, what are your plans for Free Comic Book Day?
Normally, I shouldn't say normally because this is only the second year that Comic Logic exists. The guys at Comic Logic were kind enough to invite Tony and I back again against their better judgment to do a podcast from their store on Free Comic Book Day, which we did last year.
Oh, how
Uh,
cool!
yeah, it was very cool. In fact, that last year they had the grand opening the week before Free Comic Book Day. So they had this really big bash, grand opening, cutting the ribbon. There was they actually had two other podcasts there that day. They had cosplayers, different artists and writers. They're affiliated with the local roller derby team, so the derby team was there. So there was a lot of repeat. There were a lot of repeat guests the following week. Although Tony and I were the sole podcasters there that day, which was really nice. We had fun. We made it into an episode. They invited us back. They were kind enough to invite us back this year. But I have secret plans that since this will probably air prior to Free Comic Book Day, I'm going to surprise some people, and I would rather not mention it here. So if you want to hear what I did on Free Comic Book Day, check out the George and Tony Entertainment Show, probably episode 120, and I will tell you. I'm sorry to be a tease like that, but just in case the people are listening, because I'm going to ask people to listen to the show. Uh, I don't want to say it and blow it. It's just like finding out that Doomsday's in Batman v Superman 6 months before the movie opens. I don't want to do that a couple of days before the movie opens.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, very,
And
very good, George.
I just blew it. I just blew it right there. Some people who haven't seen the movie yet, I just blew it.
What are you kidding? There, the entire world has seen Batman versus Superman the opening weekend.
Yeah, well, I got to be honest with you. I still haven't seen it.
What?
Okay, bye, folks. Eric's kicking me off the show now. Bye. It was nice talking to you again.
Oh,
Yeah, I
see,
just haven't had time. It's a long movie, and that's what
oh,
makes me worry about Civil War. Captain America: Civil War. It's
yeah.
just a little bit shorter, but you know what it is? My wife wants to go. My wife is interested in both those movies,
Hmm.
and for the two of us to make the time to go together, it for some reason for the past couple of weeks it hasn't worked out for Batman Superman.
Well,
I don't
now
know. I'm embarrassed.
doesn't Civil War come out the same weekend that Free Comic Book Day is?
Yeah, and I've got to say, even though Batman versus Superman I haven't seen it yet, Civil War will take priority if for some reason, some way I can actually see it opening weekend. It
Well,
will take priority.
well, George, this is the perfect weekend to make of this. So you go to your local comic book shop
Uh-huh.
or shops, and you celebrate Free Comic Book Day.
Uh-huh.
Go see Civil War.
That's right.
Have some lunch or a late lunch or whatever, early dinner, whatever, and then go see Batman versus Superman.
All right, now I know Connie is listening to this, my wife, my lovely wife, the one who provides the generous grant that makes my show possible, along with my cat Bianca, my benevolent overlord Bianca. Connie, you heard that, so I think we know what we're doing on Saturday, May 7th now.
Hi, Connie.
And all bow down to Bianca.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so let's George, if you don't mind, let's talk about some of the free comic books that are coming out for Free Comic Book Day. Is there anything that certainly caught your eye when you're looking at the free comic books that are going to be available?
I don't like to cuss, Eric, but I have a three-letter word: ROM, ROM, ROM. Like they say in the real estate game, it's all location, location, location. For the Free Comic Book Day, it's all ROM, ROM, ROM for me. It's a nostalgia thing, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, I cannot remember because I DCB Service actually allows you to order your free comic books from their shop for one of your orders, and so I already chose a few of these books probably a few months ago. I honestly don't remember some of the ones I chose.
Oh, it'll be a nice surprise then.
Yeah, exactly. But I do remember, however, that I looked at the ROM one and seriously thought about getting it. So I'm not sure if I got it or not.
When sorry to always bring it back to me, Eric, but on the show that we'll post this week with Rich Gallhofer from Comic Logic, number 118, I kind of tried to coerce him into putting a couple of books aside for me, and I said my top three picks are ROM, The Simpsons, and The Tick.
Oh yeah, the
As
Tick.
long as I can get those three, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, the Tick. I almost always get a Tick free comic book day issue.
Well, it's always new material, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one I guess the top one for me was the let's see, let me pull this over here. The Con Man Spectrum number 0 edition.
Yes, he said that no one has asked him about ROM. I was the only guy, but the one book that everybody has been asking about at his store is Spectrum.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And he was really unfamiliar with the whole con man
Mm-hmm.
thing. So we had a brief discussion about it when we recorded my show. The reason I keep bringing it up is because we just did it last night, so it's fresh in my head.
Right, right. So have you seen Con Man?
I have not. And in
Oh.
fact, what outlet is that on? Is,
Um,
is it like a Netflix thing or
I believe it's on Vimeo.
Vimeo? Okay,
But
but it is now on like DVD or Blu-ray or something, right?
it is,
Okay,
yes. And so when I was at Emerald City Comic Con, that was one of the things that I
I heard
purchased.
you. I heard you mention that, and in
Right.
fact, I'm going to wait for a con and hopefully pick it up
Ah,
there.
yes. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's really good. It
How many
is.
episodes is it?
Oh, I
Just
think
like
it.
10 or something
I
like
think
that?
it's well. I think it's between 10 and 12, but they're really
Okay.
short. You know, they're only like 10 or 15 minutes long.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's not a long thing at
Hmm.
all.
It
but
just seems like a great concept.
it is. And Alan Tudyk just, I liked him before, from Firefly and
Hmm.
whatnot, and the other things that I've seen him in. He's just a really he's funny and
Yes.
engaging, and he just knocks it out of the park with this
And he
show.
gets it. He gets it, and I think he enjoys it. Did you see him? Did you watch the show Suburgatory on ABC?
I did not. Was he on that?
He was on that. He was a supporting player. Maybe he was on uh, at the beginning. He was on every episode. Toward the end, I don't know how many seasons it ran, maybe three or four. But toward the end, maybe he was on every other episode or something like that. But he was pretty funny in there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out then. Any other free comic books that you want to point out?
Well, I got, just because I gave Rich my top three doesn't mean I didn't have a ton of stuff on here. But I will say I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I was interested in the Four Doctors from Titan Comics.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's a preview for maybe some miniseries that's coming out. A lot of these things about Free Comic Book Day, they're just there to whet your appetite so that you pick up whatever the series is when it comes out.
exactly.
I believe it or not, I'm excited about the Pink Panther coming back from American mythology. So I would like to pick up the Pink Panther. In fact, I ordered a nice Pink Panther T-shirt in the previews a couple of months ago of him as the mighty Pan Thor with his trusty hammer. So I did order that shirt. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's a bunch of other stuff. I'm actually interested in the history of comics, so I like the Overstreet
Mm-hmm.
Marketplace book that comes out every year. There's always some good articles in there.
Yep, I almost
I
have
always
to get
try and
that.
get that. Yeah, and I think a lot of people pass that one up because there's usually text in there, and people want their comics. So that one's usually an easy get as long as your comic book shop has that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you? Any others that jumped out at you?
Let's see here. One Punch Man from Viz Media. I don't know why, but just that title and that image. So on the cover of this, it shows this guy punching at you on the cover, and he's just got this red glove punching at you. I don't know. There's something about One Punch Man that just that wants me to read it, I guess.
There was something, they were listed alphabetically after you got past the gold and the platinum levels. There was something about the company listed right after that, Z2.
Oh
It
yeah.
was called Comics Lab. And to be honest with you, I don't remember why I circled this thing, but if the store I go to happens to have it, I'll pick it up just to read it. I don't know why I circled it.
Well, it's an interesting cover, isn't it?
Yeah,
It looks like they're making comics
exactly right. And
or things to
it
do with
does.
comics.
And you know what? I'm reading the solicit now, and it does say characters and stories revolving around comic books.
There you
So I
go.
guess that's why I did it. Maybe it's a little meta or something. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, and of course, SpongeBob comics, because if for no other reason, one of my favorite artists, Greg Schiegel, and he's one of my favorite podcasters too. Besides for you, Eric, of course. He he had not only he used to have a show where he'd have creators on as fellow creators on, but he did a show with Chris Giarrusso, who his famous book is G-Man. They did a show called Cruising Together where they would review Tom Cruise movies every episode.
Yeah.
But of course, for a 1 hour episode, they talk about the movie for 10 minutes and then they'd get sidetracked for the other 50. So that was always fun. So if for no other reason, SpongeBob Comics, because Greg Schiegel is is the cover artist.
Oh, that's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, yeah, because of your show, your interview with him. Or is that right? Did you interview him?
Oh, yes. Hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's what I thought.
Well,
Because
when his book Pix came out back
that's
in
right. Yeah,
February of last year. Hmm.
that's right. So because of that, I started checking out his Stuff Said podcast, which is the one that you just mentioned. Well, you said Cruising Together. That's the other one, but the one with the comic creators.
Yes.
And yeah, I remember him talking about the SpongeBob stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that was all the way back on episode 54. Hopefully, when Pix 2 comes out, hopefully I'll get him back.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to compete, I think, because I want him on there too, on
You
my
know, you
show.
know, we should, we should do, Eric. We should do a joint interview
Mm.
because Tony has nothing to say to Eric. Has nothing to say to Greg. If you listen to Tony on that episode, I think he may have asked one question that made no sense. So, what we should do it together. That's what we should do.
All right. All right.
And Tony will admit it. Tony will admit
I kind of liked his contribution on that show, but
it. Sure, because it was funny. It was almost like a non sequitur.
I'll mention one more for me for Free Comic Book Day, and I do so because of my girls, the DC Superhero Girls
Oh
special.
yeah.
So there is an animated how I hesitate to call it a series, but there's a bunch there's at least 3 shows that we have recorded of this DC Superhero Girls, and my younger kid Madison loves it, so I'm sure that they'll enjoy reading this as well.
Does that have anything? That has nothing to do with that new graphic novel that was solicited last month, where they're in high school, does it?
I bet it does. I bet
Oh, it does.
this is
Oh, oh,
probably
okay.
it's probably an excerpt from that. I'm
All right.
guessing.
Yeah. That. Oh, yeah. That should be fun then.
Yeah, yeah. And I pre-ordered that trade as well. So for them, well, mostly for them.
Both of you.
Yeah.
The whole family. Let's call it that way.
I just like to whatever opportunity I can, I try to buy all ages books.
Mm,
So that they keep producing them because there's not enough of them.
I agree. And you know what? Just because they're labeled all ages doesn't mean they're Dr. Seuss books. Dr. Seuss, where where they're just saying Sam I Am and Hop on Pop and stuff like that.
Right.
They're still really good books. I mean, let's face it. Adults were reading Harry Potter books, and those were young adult novels.
Mm-hmm.
And still other, I guess, even the Hunger Game novels. Everybody was reading those. So just because something says young adult or all ages doesn't mean adults can't read it. So I'm hoping everybody else is doing the same thing you're doing, that they're supporting all ages books,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of any sort of perception they may have that they're juvenile or, they're reading on a first grade level or something.
Right. Right. Okay, George. Anything else as far as the Free Comic Book Day offerings?
No, no. I'll tell you one thing. If I could, if you have a store that is has to limit you for some reason or another, once again, folks, that three-letter word, ROM.
Well, I plan on talking about ROM here in a little bit, so we'll talk more
Oh,
about
great,
that.
cool.
Okay, shall we just dive right in?
Yeah. So you said Dark Horse.
Let's go to Dark
All
Horse
right. So
and
you lead the way, sir.
okay, I'll start off and you jump in. Um, the first thing that I noticed here under Dark Horse that caught my eye was the Angel Catbird Volume 1 trade.
Yes.
One for the title because Angel Catbird what? And then 2, so when I perused these before a few days ago just to kind of get a sense of what was out there, I saw the title. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Came back to review them again, and I realized, oh, this is written by Margaret Atwood.
Yes, it is.
It's Margaret Atwood. It says here, first original graphic novel. So wow, Margaret Atwood.
And if here we go, self-serving again. You're never going to invite me back. On episode 117, like I said, as we're recording this right now, this is the most recent episode of the George and Tony Entertainment Show that's up now. Hope Nicholson, the owner of Bedside Press, is the editor of this book.
Oh, I did not realize that.
We didn't talk about it too much, but if you go to her website, it's right there, smack on the banner at the top of her page. And she even discusses how, a little blurb in there about how she felt so fortunate to be working on a project with Margaret Atwood.
No kidding.
Yeah, no, in fact, that's how I learned about it. And then all of a sudden I saw it solicited for July and I said, got to get it.
Yeah, it's definitely going on my list for sure. The short list anyway. So I'll have to tally up the total and then see if I can afford to get, because there's a lot of trades coming out in July that
Yeah.
I want to get. So
And as you said in one of your previous episodes, then the culling begins.
that's right. Probably not as much as my wife would like, but yeah.
That is the problem, isn't it? If I add a title to my list these days, something has got to go. So I'm always hoping some mini series is ending as something else is starting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have here next, George. If you don't have anything,
Oh no, I just figured I'd let you go down your list, and if there was
Okay.
something that I didn't have, unless you wanted to go back and forth, that works for me.
Either way, so I'll just start off and then you jump in, okay?
Sure.
As you see fit. So this is real exciting. Finally, after a year, Black Hammer by Jeff Lemire and Dean Ormston.
You
Ormston?
know something? I thought this thing had been solicited before, and
Yes.
as I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, is this a follow-up to something that I missed? So this is the Black Hammer that was previously solicited.
Yes. So
Uh,
yeah, at last year's Emerald City Comic Con, they announced this at one of the panels, and I was very excited to read this, just because it sounds like a really interesting story. And then, unfortunately, the artist, Mr. Ormston, had some medical issues, if I recall correctly, and could not work on it for a while. And so then, at this year's Emerald City Comic Con, they again announced the book that it would be coming out, and here it is, solicited for July. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So this is just to remind people, this is I'm just going to read the text here. Once they were heroes, but that age is long since past, banished from existence by a multiversal crisis. I love those two words together.
oh yeah.
The
Hmm.
old champions of Spiral City, Abraham Slam, Golden Gale, Colonel Weird, Madam Dragonfly, and Barbalian now lead simple lives in a timeless farming town. Even as they try to find their way home, trouble has a unique way of finding heroes wherever they are. This is going to be so much fun.
I agree with you. This was on my must-get list when it was originally solicited, and you forget about these things sometimes, and then you don't realize, oh, that was supposed to come out. And then when it was in here, it jogged my memory, and I thought I was going crazy, to be honest with you. But you have set my mind at ease.
Good, good. Yeah, I've had this. So I have a pull list at the website where I
Hmm.
list everything that I currently am pulling, and
Uh-huh.
that book has been on my pull list since last year,
Uh,
and
since 2004.
that's with just with a parenthetical that says on hiatus or something, or
Oh yeah.
waiting for or something like that. But I wanted to make sure that I kept it on there to remind myself that it would be coming out eventually.
Do you ever find, as you're going through previews and like you said, you make your A list and then you have to maybe whittle it down a bit due to how much you see it eventually will cost you? Do you ever find that as title, you take a title off and then as it keeps appearing in previews, you keep looking at it and you keep asking yourself, man, that looks good. I guess maybe I'll trade wait, or maybe it'll be at the library or something. I mean, does that happen to you
Oh yeah,
as you do that?
oh yeah. I
Because
I do a lot of trade waiting for that very reason.
there is a book here under Dark Horse. Now it's only issue number two, but it is an example of one of those. It's called Cryptocracy.
Oh yeah.
What is that something that you're planning on getting, or at least maybe sparked your interest?
Yeah. So the last time that I did the June solicitations episode, I looked at that one as well, the issue number one, and it sparked my interest for sure. So I was just kind of gonna test the waters, as it were, to see what kind of response it was
Mm,
getting, and then I was gonna, if it was favorable and people were talking about it, then I was probably gonna get the trade for this one.
I see. Yeah, and it does say ongoing, and these days ongoing might be 20 issues or something like that, but still at $4 a pop, sometimes you got to be a little discriminating.
Oh yeah, especially
Yeah,
at $4 a pop, that's for sure.
yeah. Hmm. There was one that I did pull the trigger on when I saw it under Dark Horse. So issue number three is here in the July solicits. It's May. May number three is coming out in July. Now, is that something that you had on your radar?
Again, I saw it and I was reading the text and stuff, but it was not something that I was gonna be watching
Mm.
for to get later, I guess. But it
And of
was
course,
certainly interested me.
and number one hasn't come out yet, so I have no idea what it's about, yeah, if whether or not I'm going to be interested in it myself. But I did order number one, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be worth the $4 purchase price.
Yeah. Well, here's George. Here is a limited series. At least it claims it is. This is Bounty. It's a 10-issue miniseries,
Hmm.
and there are two reasons why I stopped on this when I was perusing this page here. First of all, as a tagline, it's Rat Queens meets Firefly.
I had
And
the feeling that would get your attention.
yeah, yeah, and it's by Curtis Wyby, who does Rat Queens. He's the writer of
Hmm.
Rat Queens, which is a series that I enjoy. I've only actually read the first trade,
Hmm.
but I have the second trade on my shelf waiting to be read. Uh, it's a really good series, so this certainly has my interest, and it's ten issues. So I don't know. I might have a hard time with that one, George. I want to get it. I want to read it sooner rather than later. But if it's
Uh-huh.
10 issues, I might as well wait for the trade on that one.
Right. That's the juggle. That's
Get
the
it,
juggle.
get it all at once.
When you click save order on your DCBS order when you're doing it, I can only imagine what it's like when the final tally pops up and you go, oh boy, here we go. Some things have to come off of this list.
That's right. I actually do have a budget now. Sometimes,
Yeah.
most times, I go a little bit over the budget, but I do have a budget.
I think we all do. And if we don't, we should.
Yeah, exactly. Colin Bunn is becoming one of the hardest working writers in comics.
You said it.
He's got a new one. It's Conan the Slayer. So, as it says here, Colin Bunn writes Conan.
Yeah. Now, have you been taking part in any of the Conan books from Dark Horse?
No, I don't think I've ever read a full issue of any Conan series.
Oh, ever.
No, ever, not
Hmm.
ever. Yeah,
Well,
but
Colin Bunn might help you change that.
I don't know. I just found it interesting that Colin Bunn is doing Conan. It's not really a character that grabs me, but he's so much in the pop culture zeitgeist that I kind of have to pay
Yeah,
attention to him.
sure. Any other Dark Horse?
Let's see here. There was something else, I think.
Because I think I'm done with Dark Horse.
Oh, they do have these. It's not comics, but the Frazetta magnets. Did you see those?
Yes.
Frank Frazetta.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah, his work is
And,
awesome.
and you know what? I'm trying to remember some of your past solicitation shows. Do you get accessories like that? For lack of a better word, statues, action figures, magnets, any of the other things that are related to comics but aren't comics themselves. Do you get any of that stuff?
Occasionally,
Yeah.
not a
Not
whole lot.
necessarily a collector of that kind of stuff, though.
No, 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 no. It
Mm.
has to be something very specific that I want. And it
Mm.
usually involves Nightwing or Robin.
I
So
was just going to say Teen Titans or
that's right.
Nightwing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I do have, I think, one more thing here from Dark Horse before we move on.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So there is. I feel obligated to mention just because it's Neil Gaiman, but Neil Gaiman has a new hardcover. It's called Troll Bridge,
Hmm.
and it's a 64-page story, but it's the artist is Colleen Duran. So you got
Hmm.
Neil Gaiman's words with Colleen Duran's art, so that's gonna look gorgeous.
Right. And there again is how we get parted with our money.
That's right, because I will be getting this for sure.
Hmm. Thank goodness for some of those discounts on DCBS,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yes,
Hmm.
definitely. All right, that's all I have for Dark Horse, George. What about you?
Same here.
Okay, so next up should be DC.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so
I
this
have
is.
to admit, when it comes to the big two, I don't buy a lot from them,
Oh,
even with
really?
Rebirth coming up. Yeah, even with
Okay.
Rebirth.
I was
Yeah,
going to
so
ask
this
you
will be
about
a very interesting conversation, I guess.
that. All right, so Rebirth, DC's Rebirth is not exactly exciting you.
Well, here's the thing. I'm definitely going to buy the main 80-page
Mm,
DC General Rebirth. Uh, and I was going to wait to read it to see how much I wanted to dip my toe into the Rebirth waters. But DCBS did make it very attractive last month.
didn't they?
They did. I mean, I forgot the exact amount of that discount, but I think,
Less than $23.
yeah. And so what does that work to? That was almost like a buck 50 or something like that per issue because they're cheap to begin with, really. They were what? They're all going to be 2.99 pretty much, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And with that kind of a discount, it's a lot of books, but again, when you work it out, they're affordable.
Mm-hmm.
So why not dip your toe into the water with all of these Rebirth books and see if you really do like them, because that's really the only way to make a judgment call.
Yep.
And even at $3 a pop, because some are coming out twice a month, that's still $6 a month. Now doing it the DCBS way, at least for that initial bundle, I pulled the trigger on it.
You
So I
did.
am,
Excellent.
yeah, I did do it. So I'm excited to check it all out. I just don't know how much I'm going to stick with it.
Hmm.
Which makes it sound like I'm going in with a negative attitude, but I'm not. It's more I'm thinking of the budget
Right.
is really what I'm thinking of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about you? Are you excited about the whole thing? I mean, believe it or not, I was excited about the New 52 when it first started.
Hmm.
And then I was actually excited about Convergence when it happened last year.
Hmm.
So now with this Rebirth thing, I'm hoping things really will truly get back to a sense as what they were pre New 52. Because I did like those 30 years between Crisis on Infinite Earths and Flashpoint. I don't,
Hmm.
I guess that seems to be more my time.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I wouldn't mind getting back to some of those concepts if they're going to bring some things back.
Yeah. Yeah. In general, I agree with you. And I think I talked about this on that last episode where I looked at the DC Rebirth stuff. But uh, having said that, though, there are a few things. Well, there's one thing in particular that's kind of bugging me about this reversion, potential
Hmm.
reversion
Uh-huh.
to what came before, and that's the whole Superman thing.
Mm.
Now, so this might be a bit of a tangent, maybe a little bit of a rant. So bear with me. So I actually really liked the New 52 version of Superman.
Hmm.
I liked the younger Clark Kent. I liked the brash nature of his personality. Um, I appreciated even if I didn't wasn't quite going along with the whole the last big storyline that they did where uh, Clark Kent was outed as Superman and he was losing his powers and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but it seems like perhaps, and I mean that's heavily hinted at in the latest issues, the issue number 51s that are coming out in the Superman line, that the new 52 version of the Superman is perhaps going to die.
Hmm.
And the pre-Flashpoint Superman that we all love, who currently is in the Superman Lois and Clark series, is going to take over as the Superman in this universe, which could be very interesting. Um, However, I feel really bad for the new 52 version of Superman. I feel like he's gotten short shrift for I don't know why.
Mm.
Other than everyone seems to like the other Superman better, I guess.
Hmm.
And so I don't know. I what I was looking forward to was maybe seeing how those two characters would interact. Not necessarily that they both had to be Superman,
Uh-huh.
but that they would both interact in some ways. And on top of that, I will have to say I'm very curious if the DC folks are going to uh, how they're going to have this old Superman relate to these characters who only know their Superman, the new 52 version. You
Right.
know, how is Batman going to react to this other Kryptonian who looks like his friend, maybe a little older? All that stuff. I just that kind of stuff really fascinates me and excites me, but only in because it's in terms of how characters relate to one another.
Right.
But it really makes me mad that they're throwing away some of those elements just because it's perceived that they don't work. I think they can make it work. In fact, that the what was it, Superman number 51, where Peter Tomasi is writing it, and I think Michael Janin did the art for that. And
Hmm.
you open up the cover, and this will be a spoiler for anybody. So, George, if you don't want me to say, I won't.
Don't worry. Don't worry about me.
Okay.
Listeners, what do you think?
Well, it's a spoiler just in case if you haven't read it yet. You open up the cover, and the splash page is Superman's face, and he says, "I'm dying," or something like that, right? That was a really good issue. I hadn't been reading Superman for a while. Basically, when I know I'm going to get letters for this, or I'm going to get emails, or
And this is
People,
why I don't have a website.
that's right. People will be mumbling under their breath, that idiot. I stopped reading it basically after John Romita Jr. came on the art because I'm
Mm,
not a big fan of his.
not a fan, and definitely didn't like his interpretation.
Yeah. But I came back because I wanted to read this Super League storyline. And
Mm,
so I think Superman 51 was the first part of that. Anyway, it really made me feel for that Superman, the new 52 version. And I guess I'm just disappointed in what they're going to do here. But at the same time, the flip side of the coin, like I said, is that there is such potential in terms of character interaction and character
yeah,
development. So
right.
there you go, I guess.
And I'm
And
guessing you pulled the trigger on the Rebirth bundle from last month.
oh yes, that was
Right.
for me, George. That was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was going to do it if
Right.
DCB Service offered it, and so yeah.
Sure.
And as long as they continue offering that bundle at that
Mm-hmm.
price, I will
Yeah.
get all the comics that they're gonna ship my way.
Yeah. And at least there you'll be able to at least get a taste of what they may be doing with Superman come Rebirth time.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are some in these solicitations there are some number ones for the
Yes.
Superman line. So we'll talk about those in a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all done ranting. So
That's that's okay. These things are close to our hearts. If they
yeah,
weren't, we wouldn't have shows based on them.
that's true, very true.
Yeah.
So you said that so you pulled the trigger, but you weren't all that excited initially about Rebirth. So what books exactly are you looking forward to?
Uh, j- just to give the listeners and you a background,
Okay.
I didn't realize how few of the big two books that I buy a month. At the beginning of the year, because at the end of last year, when Tony and I tried to do a best of type of thing for our second full year of podcasting, I realized it was more of a what have you done for me lately type of thing. And I forgot things that happened at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of this year, I started to make a spreadsheet of what I was seeing in the movies, what I was watching on TV, and what comics and graphic novels or trades I have been buying. And when I started sorting things just to try and get the numbers for my own head, I realized I really don't buy too many DC and Marvel books, which surprises the heck out of me because that's all I used to buy. In fact, that's probably how a lot of us got started, DC and Marvel, and that's all we bought, probably because that's all there was at the time. Now there are just so many publishers out there putting out good material, but I don't know I could tell you what it was with Marvel. It was Civil War that totally took me out of the Marvel universe. DC, I'm not quite sure what took me out. Maybe as I as the New 52 started to mature, maybe I fell off of some titles and didn't realize it. If it wasn't for Grayson, I don't think I would have been picking anything up from DC. And not having with Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing again. I know you're happy about that, but what about how do you feel about the absence of Grayson as a super spy?
Actually, I kind of would have preferred if they just kept with that.
I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, I can guess that most, if not all of us, who who read DC Comics figured that eventually Dick Grayson would become Nightwing again.
Yes. In
But
fact, that was pretty much the way I felt from number one.
right, right, yeah, sure. But at the same time, Grayson was such a breath of fresh air for the
Yes, it
character,
was.
and just for DC Comics in general. What an interesting take on such an old and beloved character.
What would you think based on, I know I'm talking about another publisher here, but I'm enjoying James Bond from Dynamite. What do you think? Do you think they could go back to just picking even just a random, uh, an unknown character and say, Eric Super Spy, something like that. Do you think they could get away with that as long as they had the proper writing, or do you think they could only do it because they had an established character?
I'm gonna say probably the latter
Yeah,
is the
probably, I
most
guess.
likely. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, you're probably right.
new
So,
characters don't seem to do very well these days.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. And so without Grace in there, uh, no offense to you, but I'm not quite sure how excited I am about Nightwing or Robin
Yeah,
or even what they do to the Titans now. So
yeah.
I mean, uh, I haven't liked what they've done with the Titans in a decade. So I don't know. I just they really will have to turn a lot of things around for me to stick with stuff. That being said, though, I since I have the print copy of previews right here, one of the first things solicited is Batman 66 meets Steed and Mrs. Peel.
Yes,
I
the
loved the
Avengers.
Batman. Yeah, I loved the Batman 66 series. I loved when they teamed him up with the Green Hornet. I loved when they did the very recent Man from Uncle team up. And this one I'm going to buy just because I love the concept. I love both sets of characters, and it just sounds like it's just going to be more fun.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that the whole I find it funny. Of course, they can't say the Batman 66 with the Avengers, but
Exactly, right.
that might just cause a little bit of confusion. Not to mention copyright infringement or something. Um,
Right.
but yeah, those the it's funny the with the Avengers TV show. I've only seen very little of it, but whatever I have seen over the years, it just seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think this comic's going to be any different. In fact, when I forgot what company came out with the Steed and Peel comics
Wasn't that
over the past
Dynamite?
couple of years. Was it Dynamite?
I think
Well,
so.
whoever did it, while I didn't purchase them, I've only heard rave reviews about them. Now, I don't know if that's because people had already been fans of the TV show,
Hmm.
but I always just heard good things about them. I've always wanted to check out the trades. I just haven't. But here's a good opportunity to get your Avengers, not Marvel's Avengers, but your Avengers fix with Batman 66.
Right. Hey, that
And those
rhymed
all-red
too.
covers are beautiful.
Well, of course, it's all red.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So since you're the big DC fan,
Hmm.
and why don't you start off telling us what what in July is exciting you?
Well, a lot actually. I'm just going to highlight. Well, I'm going to try just to highlight a few things here, just for points of reference. So the Justice League books, of course, are relaunching with Brian Hitch
Yeah.
writing instead of our good buddy Jeff Johns, who has been doing, I think, and I think I'm in the minority in some of the circles I run in, but I think he's been doing a bang up job on Justice League ever since the New 52 launch.
Well,
And
wasn't the recent Dark Side War, wasn't that well received? Or were there
well,
complaints about
it was to me.
or to you? But in general, were people complaining about it?
Some people that I've listened to on other podcasts and people I talk to that are actually reading the book, they like it. They like
Mm-hmm.
it a lot. It's just
Oh,
that
good.
I know a lot of people who are like Justice League, Jeff Johns writing the Justice League, eh.
Oh,
So
really? But they're not even giving it a shot, but they're poo-pooing it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, they tried it out for a while, but it was just not something that kept their attention. And I get that. I totally get that, but I think they're wrong. But anyway, Brian Hitch is writing. He is drawing. He's doing the art for the Rebirth Justice League issue, but then Tony Daniel takes over art, which for me that's good. I like Tony Daniel for
Yeah.
the new #1 version of Justice League. And then we got Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. So Hal becomes looking like the more familiar Green Lantern that we're used to,
Mhm.
as compared to what he's been in his title recently, and getting him back together with the band, so to speak. Back so yeah, Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. So this is written by Julie Benson and Shauna Benson. So these are
Mm.
the sisters who write for the show The 100,
Yes,
and they're doing this book. And I just listened to Julie Benson on one of the latest episodes of Comic Geek Speak.
I
Uh,
did too.
it was the
Hmm.
Comic Talk episode recently, and if people should just go listen to that because I thought she was really great on the show. Had a lot of interesting things to say, and they talked a little bit about how they asked specifically how the two sisters write and how they're approaching this book and all sorts of stuff. So if you're somewhat interested in Batgirl and the Birds of Prey and but you're not really sure. You should go listen to that episode so that you can at least get basically from the horse's mouth what this is going to, what it's going to be like, and why they love it so much. So
Eric, I sense another Gates Longbox Review team up to try and interview Julie Benson and ask her the questions that they neglected to ask because it was a Comic Talk episode.
right, right,
I think that's what we need to do.
yeah. All right. Let's see. Batgirl. So Batgirl is something that didn't quite grab me once they put her in Burnside. I think visually that book was fantastic. It's just the story wasn't really holding me. And then basically once you're done with the rebirth Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, you have Batgirl there, like I said, and so they're going outside of Burnside. It says beyond Burnside.
Right.
But Barbara is going to, I guess, Japan.
Yeah.
Not sure why, but there you go. But it's got so Hope Larson is writing that. Raphael Albuquerque. So that's what's interests me about this is Raphael's work on this book. Yeah. So like I said, Madison.
Big difference.
Yeah, Madison gets between the two styles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But still, both good. Both.
Oh yes,
stuff.
yeah. I didn't mean in a negative way, that's for sure.
Yeah, but like I said, Madison reads it, so I'll be able to take a look at it too. Then you got Nightwing, Dick Grayson back in.
Oh yeah, but you have no interest in that, so you can just gloss right over that.
Yeah. Exactly. The nice thing about this is that Tim Seeley is continuing to write Nightwing, so at least we have that continuation from Grayson to Nightwing. I'm not sure about this whole Better Than Batman storyline. Someone he has a new mentor who challenges everything Batman taught him. I'm like, really?
I know.
Is that? Come on, Mr. Seeley. I'm not sure. You got to sell it to me. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Well, this website kind of has things all over the place. They're not really organized by the book families here. But next up here is the Hellblazer. So they're relaunching that, teaming up Constantine with I think it's the Swamp Thing. Not in the Rebirth issue that I'm looking at, but in the ongoing that'll be the case.
Oh wow.
I can skip.
But now, okay, something like that you would be interested in, or are you a Hellblazer fan?
Well, yeah, from the original series that they canceled at issue 300. That series that started back in 1988.
Oh, so you're talking about when they ended it at Vertigo?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that series I absolutely love. I haven't really gotten into some of the relaunches they've done since the New 52, except for the latest one. I guess there's only been two. The first one I was like, no big deal. But the second one, where they had Riley Rossmo doing the art for most of the issues.
Oh yes.
That has been a lot of fun.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that was surprisingly fun, that book. So I'm a little leery about this new version, but obviously I'm going to give it a try.
Well, is that why you picked it up, because of the art? That made you try Hellblazer again?
Pretty much, yeah. Because I read Riley Rossmo on, what was it called, Drumheller? I can't remember.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Can't remember what company put that out. But yeah, I got that for a little bit, and that put Riley Rossmo on the map for me.
Right.
And so when I saw he was coming on to Hellblazer, I'm like, that's going to look good, and it certainly was. Let's see, the new Superman. So George, this is one of the things I want to talk about too. It's okay. The title is simply called New Superman, which I find that really interesting that they would name a book something so plainly is the word that comes to mind. But this is the one where a Chinese national somehow gets the powers of Superman, I guess.
Right. Yes.
Or something like that, and so that really interests me, just in terms of the Chinese culture and the superheroes. We don't get a lot of Asian superheroes to begin with, so having this out there, I think, should be interesting at the very least.
I agree. Had there not been a DCBS bundle for me to partake upon pretty much all of these, this is one that I would have sampled on my own. I would have shelled out the $3 for this one.
Oh, well, let's
Yeah,
see. I think that's high praise.
yeah.
If you're going to pay cover price for a book, I think that's
That's right. Yeah,
even just a 2.99 book. I think that's high
yeah.
praise.
The concept got me, and the creative team.
Yeah. Well, are you familiar with the folks that are working on that? So it's Gene Yang is writing it,
Hmm.
and Victor Bogdanovich is
Now,
doing the art.
you know something? This is why your listeners will never want me back on the show. I read and enjoyed his graphic novel, and why can't he was oh darn it, he the Green Turtle? I know that wasn't the title of the book, but he rewrote the origin story for the first, or I'm really paraphrasing here in my mind, but the first Asian superhero.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think isn't it the Green Turtle? I think it is.
Was that the title of the book though?
I don't remember. I think so.
Yeah, I don't either. But because originally the whole history that was taught to us in the book was when the book was actually originally written and drawn as a almost like a rebellion because the publishers didn't want to have an Asian character in the book. You never really saw the character's face. It was always obscured by shadow or behind. He was always behind something, or his cape was covering his face, and that was the artist's way of. Uh, in his mind, his character was Asian, but he never came across as Asian to the reader, or at least that's how he got away with it with the publisher because he wasn't allowed to have an Asian character in the book. It was something like that. Again, I know I'm
Yeah.
butchering it.
No,
So
no.
the
I think you have
your
that right.
listeners are going to hate me even more, but I enjoyed that book immensely. That book was great,
Oh,
and
okay.
uh, I admit I didn't read his work on the current Superman that he had picked up toward the end of the New 52 run
Mm-hmm.
that he did, but I am interested in what he's going to do with this new character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, George, I'm glad you had that to say about the Green Turtle because that's something that I've been, it's a book that's kind of been in my periphery, but I hadn't really decided to latch onto it and get it. But now that you've said that, I really want to read that now.
Oh, I would recommend it highly. And if it was on my bookshelf, I'd be looking at it right now. Unfortunately, it was a book I took out from the library, so I don't own it. Otherwise, I would have the spine at least to look at and know the name of it. So I apologize that I don't know the name of it off the top of my head.
Let's see. Moving on here. There's a bunch of the issues 2 and 3 because now DC's doing the double shipping thing.
Hmm.
Even though we're getting 2.99 books, it's double shipped, which I won't even get into that right now. But moving on. Titans. So Titans are back. Written by Dan Abnett with art by Brett Booth and Norm Rappamund. So now we get our classic Titans in the book. So I assume that however the Titans Hunt miniseries that's currently going on, however that ends, that will transition into this new Titans book.
And again, of course, all your listeners know you really don't care about that. So, they're
That's
even
right.
wondering why you're bringing it up.
That's right. I'm sure people get tired of hearing me talk about my love of the Titans. Here's an oddity, George. Just they announced this new miniseries called Bloodlines, which was
Hmm.
a revisitation, if you will, to I think it came out in the '90s. There was a
Yes.
series called Bloodlines back then.
I'll admit I didn't read it, but I
Uh,
was aware of it.
Yeah, I only got a few tie-in issues to that
Mhm.
back when it was originally out. But here's this 6-issue series. So here
Yeah.
it is for July. It's issue 4,
Mhm.
so they're just over halfway, and yet this is the launch of DC Rebirth, and I'm just because I'm not getting Bloodlines. I didn't plan on it. I don't plan on reading it at all. But I'm really curious if anybody out there is reading this, how it ties into the DCU, or does it at all? I assume it does, but I just find it really curious that they have this thing, this initiative. That's probably too strong a word with this Bloodlines thing going on right smack dab in the middle of the start of the DC Rebirth. It just
It does seem a little weird, doesn't
it's
it?
a weird concept to me,
Yeah.
but I'm sure they like, okay, we're gonna do this Bloodlines thing, and then they get that going, and then oh wait, you know what? We should rebirth our universe.
Yeah, right. And I don't even understand why all the titles aren't at one, two, and three right now. Like Doctor Fate is number 14 or something like that. Titans is 22 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Why hasn't all the numbering restarted? That's another confusing thing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna bring that up as well. Yeah, because a lot of these ongoing series that are pre-rebirth
Yeah.
are still going on. How long they're going to go, I'm not entirely sure. Because here we are, with the July solicitations, that's the second month of rebirth, and yet here they are, they're going on. So I assume maybe that, well, like for example, New Suicide Squad number 22, that says final issue.
Right. And
But
I guess what'll they get a rebirth in August or something?
yeah, something like that. So
Yeah.
I have to say I appreciate the fact that DC is doing it this way as opposed to how they did New 52, or at least I should say my wallet appreciates
Yeah,
that
if they
they're doing it
stagger
this
it
way.
like this, right.
So I appreciate that. Let's see here. You already mentioned the Batman 66. Oh, there's a bunch of Wonder Woman's really getting a lot of love these last few months in the
Yes.
solicitations.
Well
Here is,
deserved, I think.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's curious though because when does the Wonder Woman movie come out? And yet here we are having a bunch of these Wonder Woman related books that are coming out in just a few months. Um, let's see, Wonder Woman: The True Amazon hardcover. This is by Jill Thompson. It's written and drawn by Jill. So this is, although this is the weird part, George. So we're right now we have the Legend of Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
It's I think it's a 9-issue miniseries that's going on right now.
Uh-huh.
It's great. The art is truly beautiful, and it's examining the early days of Diana Prince, well Diana, before she becomes Wonder Woman. And this book here by Jill Thompson also does it. It reimagines the early years of Princess Diana. So that's interesting that they keep going back to the essentially the origin story, or at least the early years. That
Right.
concept. I'm not sure why they're doing that.
And they're going to do that every other issue of the new rebirthed Wonder
Oh,
Woman.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So Greg Rucka and Nicholas Scott are doing a year one Wonder Woman.
Right.
Exactly. So,
Hmm.
wh-
I guess it's prep for the movie. I don't know. I
I
guess because they
guess
introduced her in the Batman Superman movie, maybe,
why? Perhaps.
and they
Yeah.
want to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But I am interested in the Wonder Woman series, the new Rebirth series,
Oh yeah.
because of the way it's going to flip like that.
Yeah.
But that might be interesting
Hmm.
to check out. So that's another book that I would have checked out, I think, had there not been a bundle.
Hmm. So here's another number one issue, George. I just want to get your take on this. So this is the Flintstones.
Yes, I did want to talk about this.
So we had, there was a lot of talk a month or two ago about you have Future Quest by Jeff Parker and Doc Shaner, Wacky Raceland that was announced just last month. You got the Scooby Doo thing. So here are these sort of, I guess, modern takes on these concepts. I know that at least the initial ones, except for maybe Future Quest, because everybody seems to be excited about that one. I certainly am. I'm getting that one, but all the other ones, like Scooby Doo and whatnot, I have to admit I'm not all that keen on those. And so then we have the Flintstones. This is by Mark Russell and Steve Pugh. Um, it reminds me of. Do you remember the live action movies that what's his name?
Yes,
He was in
John
Roseanne.
Goodman.
John Goodman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. So it reminds me of those movies, the way that cover looks, and so
I
it makes.
agree.
Are they trying for that kind of take on this concept? Um, and part of the solicitation here. So it says, join Fred and Barney as Mr. Slate sends them on a mission to show some Neanderthals a night on the town in hopes of luring them into this new system called working for a living in Slate's quarry, of course. I, boy, that's to me skirting a little too close to disaster for my taste. Taking advantage of fictional Neanderthals, for cheap labor. That just you extend that out to the logical real life conclusion. That take just does not sit well with me. So I don't know. How do you feel about that, George?
Well, here's the
You
thing
take
about
that
this.
one.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but or a 10-foot microphone for that matter.
Wisely so.
However, just the whole way that they're handling this Hanna-Barbera rebirth in and of itself,
Hmm.
I'm excited about Future Quest too. But the thing about Future Quest, again, the first one hasn't come out yet as far as I know, but that one looks like the characters may be drawn at least the same way they would have been in the cartoon or a comic book version of the cartoon
Hmm.
that would have come out in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. The Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, while the story doesn't excite me at all, while the artwork looks like a Scooby-Doo book, everybody in there is older. I mean, Shaggy's got the full beard. Everybody seems like they've progressed in age a bit, even though it still has that cartoony style. No, I'm not excited about that one at all. I am ordering Future Quest.
Hmm. Right.
I am a big Wacky Races fan. Now, this Wacky Race Land makes me a little nervous. I'm checking out issue number 1, but if it's anything like what the solicitation describes, and if the artwork on the cover is any representation of what the artwork is going to be like in the book, I have the feeling it's not going to be for me.
Yeah.
The same thing may go for the Flintstones. But I will say this, had they stuck to the original art style, if they wanted to make a full issue story or break it up like they used to do back when we were kids. I used to buy Hanna-Barbera comics when I was in my late teens, early 20s when Marvel was putting them out. I had no problem with that. And the reason for that was I love the characters and I thought the stories were fun. Not everything has to be doom and gloom or superhero fights. I enjoyed that stuff. And I think getting very close to 50 years old, I think I could still enjoy that. And I think younger kids could enjoy that too. Now, a younger kid, I'm not quite sure is going to appreciate the Flintstones book or the Wacky Raceland book. So they're obviously going for the middle-aged guy who used to watch these cartoons Saturday mornings.
Exactly.
And I'm not quite sure this is the way to go. Now, I may be totally wrong. I'm forming an opinion without actually having having read the material, but this is not the direction I would have gone if I had the Hanna-Barbera license.
Hmm.
But I'm not trying Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, but I'm going to try all the others.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I do get a little nervous when for instance, before I even mentioned the Pink Panther. I'm in my late 40s. I'm excited to read a Pink Panther book. I don't know, which just goes to show I'm a juvenile. I think that's
Well,
really what it just goes to show.
well,
My mind stopped maturing a very long time ago. The body didn't, but my mind just stopped, I guess.
I prefer, George, to think of it as we older comic fans. We're just young at heart.
I think we are. Oh, and I'm looking here. Scooby Apocalypse is written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis.
Ah,
If I'm pronouncing his name right, all these
yeah.
years I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but I mean those are two strong writers.
Yes.
But the whole concept and how they've aged the hero our protagonists really doesn't interest me,
Hmm.
and I think that's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I totally agree with you on that. Yeah. Okay. We're spending a
Our
lot.
rant is done, right?
Yeah, all right, so we're spending a lot of time on DCI, and I want to get through this. I got a few more things, George, and then we can move on to some other things.
Sure.
I appreciate the patience of you and my beloved listeners. Let's see. So here's a bunch of trades that I just want to point out. The Omega Men, The End Is Here trade paperback. So this is the 12-issue series that Tom King wrote with the really cool art. So it's by Barnaby Bagenda, Toby Cypress, and Iguara. If you missed out on this, I can understand why you maybe passed on it, but people really missed out if you didn't read this, because this book is an interesting look at how you can write comics in a different way. Because Tom King really, I think, pushed up against some boundaries there with this book, And also if you couple that, if you read this, you couple that with interviews he's done about what he is trying to accomplish with this book. It just, for me, being someone who's really interested in how comic books are created between the writer, the artist, and how that synergy works. This is, this could be a masterclass in how to do an interesting story. Whether or not you like the characters or the concept of the Omega Men, this is certainly a different take on those characters, and it was a really interesting ride for sure.
So you were reading it issue by issue?
Yes, I am. And now I have to say it's probably not as strong as Tom King's work on the Vision for Marvel, but you can certainly see some similarities in storytelling style between the two. Obviously, it's him. But that's one of the things I like about Tom. And I've said this before on the podcast, but he does not do the same book or different books the same way. He always tweaks his storytelling approach a little bit so that you're not getting the same. You can't really tell necessarily where he's going with stuff just because he likes to tweak around with how the story is being told, and I really like that.
I know we don't want to stick on DC too much longer, but I do have a question for you then.
Okay.
All right. You mentioned the whole Better Than Batman thing with Nightwing. We did gloss over that Tom King is taking over the writing towards of Batman, and his the solicitation for that is that there are some new vigilantes in town that see Batman as the threat.
Right. See?
See now, but then you have the Flash after this rebirth, where almost everybody gets struck by lightning, and now they're all a bunch of speedsters.
Right.
Those descriptions, just based on those descriptions, those don't interest me so much. Those stories don't seem to interest me. Now, again, I'm going by a solicitation, a couple of sentences, and I am giving them a shot thanks to the DCBS discount. But just based on those descriptions, I wouldn't have plopped down my $3 per issue for those, and even Batman with the Tom King pedigree on there. So I don't know where they're going with their storytelling. It'll be interesting to see, but I think maybe those descriptions are what have clouded my opinion or formed my opinion about what I told you at the beginning of our discussion, that while I'm interested in the rebirth concept, I don't know how excited I am about it. Yeah. Or how much of my money, how much of the portion of my budget they're going to get.
Well, that is a very interesting point. Is they give us a paragraph, a few sentences, really,
right,
to whet our appetite, to pull us in, and for the most part, and it's not just DC, but I think a lot of the publishers do a horrible job in their solicitation text.
So they instead of telling us, they're going to have to show us, and thanks to that bundle discount, at least they're going to show me that first month.
That's one of the things I actually like about the smaller publishers. They usually give you some preview pages, or just more. They give us more information, for us to make that decision. Whereas I think with Marvel and DC, they don't. In some ways, they don't need to do that because they know that they're going to sell the next Batman issue, for example, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at the back of the previews that show the top 100. Very few in that top 100 are from any other publisher but Marvel or DC.
Right. Exactly.
And that just goes to show, you're right. They're selling books anyway. And even number 100, if number 100 is a Marvel or a DC book, it doesn't matter. They're still selling more.
Yeah.
Than in every Image book except The Walking Dead and maybe Saga, right?
That's right.
and every other publisher out there. So they're still getting the numbers. Maybe not enough for their company, but they're still getting the numbers.
Let's see. Next up here for me, this is a series that I guess only lasted 6 issues. It's the Telos series. This came out of Convergence.
I was going to buy that, and again, I had to make a cut.
Yeah.
There's just so much you could buy in a month. And I said, you know what? There's no way this is going to last. So I didn't even bother buying it. Had you read it?
Exactly. No, I did not. But that's exactly, that was my take on it as well. But then I think in issue number 3 for the cover, they have Validus from the Legion of Superheroes. And I'm like, oh man, I should have gotten this. So I'm probably going to pick up this trade just so I
Hmm,
have, I can read the story. If I can get it cheaply enough, I'll probably get that.
yeah.
I mentioned the Superman Lois and Clark series that's out in trade for July, and so I mentioned before there's a lot of Wonder Woman love, and here's the rest of it. The Wonder Woman by George Perez Volume One trade, which gives us the
Yes.
first 14 issues of the 19 what was it 1980
Well, it's
87?
right after Crisis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Was it?
yeah, it
Oh
would have
wait.
been mid 80s, 86, 87.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't say here. But anyway, that was a great that was a great run on Wonder Woman with George Perez doing the art for the most
Somewhere in
part.
these long boxes in these rooms here, I've got most of those. I don't think I have them
Yeah.
all, but I think I have at least the first six or so.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Don't
also
ask me what the story was. I don't remember. It was 30 years ago.
let's see prediction, George. I think the Wonder Woman movie is going to borrow at least somewhat of that initial storyline from George Perez
Mm.
with
And
involving war.
yeah, and that I think that would work in their favor, I would
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said war. I meant to say Ares. So
Hmm.
if we're going
Hmm.
to keep true to the Greek roots of Wonder
Right.
Woman's
Yes.
mythology. Okay. So there's this Wonder Woman 75th anniversary box set, which it's a bunch of graphic novels from Gail Simone, Brian Azzarello, George Perez, and Greg Rucka in a slipcase. So that's for $50. So you get Gods and Mortals trade, Down to Earth trade, The Circle trade, and Blood trade.
That would look nice on the bookshelf,
That
I'll say
would.
that.
It
And
would.
all great writers, all great stories, I'll bet. Ah, but again, alas, DCBS, take us away, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, I think I have most of these already in my collection, so I don't need to buy this box set. But yeah, if you're looking for a gift for a Wonder Woman fan, there you go.
Oh yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Or
birthday, early Christmas gift, something
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah. Or you could get the 75 years hardcover for Wonder Woman, 400 pages. Wait a minute. This has got to be a typo, George. On mine it says $40. That has got to be a typo.
That's what it says in the print copy.
No way. That is not correct.
39.99.
That's a steal for a hardcover for 400
Yeah,
pages.
now you just sold it on half your listeners.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Now, see here's the price I expected. The Wonder Woman Golden Age Omnibus Volume One hardcover, which is the first appearance of Wonder Woman through several years. That's $75 for 760. Well, maybe 400 pages is right for $40.
I mean, it's almost double the page count on the
Right.
75-year anniversary. Yeah.
Huh. For some reason I thought those 75-year celebrations were higher priced. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. But anyway. Okay, I think.
That's a lot of good stuff from DC, though.
Oh my God, yeah.
You may as well not even look at the rest of the book because I think you have your monthly
I know,
quota right
right?
there.
Let's see here. I'm quickly scrolling here just to make sure I'm not missing something. So George, if you haven't, no, I think I'm
Well, do you
done.
do anything with Vertigo or no?
Uh, I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me, other than I'll just mention the new series of Lucifer. The first trade is out for this month. I think that's about it.
Do you currently buy any single issues of any Vertigo titles or no?
Oh yeah,
Oh, you do.
Lucifer, Clean Room, Red Thorn, Sheriff of Babylon, excellent
Uh-huh.
series.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think that's all that's jumping to mind right now.
All right. I do some of the ones that you just mentioned. I also do Art Ops and Survivors Club.
Okay, yeah, Art Ops. I got the first issue, and I'm going to get the trade. I ordered the trade for that one because
Okay. I think
mostly,
I hope you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed it. It's a good book.
well, yeah, it's all red, so
Yeah, right. I will say this as we're closing out DC. I do notice that they're republishing and reformatting their publishing of Y the Last Man.
hmm.
Book five is coming out in July, and I have to admit, I mentioned this on my show this week. I actually read it for the first time and finished it this past weekend.
Ah, and
I took it out from the library. I did it in the 10 volume version, so about 6 issues in each book. And man, what a powerful ending! I enjoyed it immensely. I
Yeah.
know it's it's been 10 years. I'm not going to say anything about it, but if you haven't read it, read it. And if it ever becomes a movie or a TV show, watch it.
Yeah. It's such a good story.
It is, and you can even, I mean, I even see the storytelling beats that he uses here. He kind of uses in Saga.
Hmm.
But you know what? I don't mind. It doesn't matter. He writes so well, and his character development is fantastic that
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm in. Although I don't think I could have read this in a single issue format. Saga, I don't read in a single issue format. I buy the trades, and it's one of the very few books that I make a mindful decision that I'm not going to buy these. I'm definitely buying the trade. I'm going to hold off.
Hmm.
That's one of the only books I do that for,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
I
it
think
has to do with his writing style.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and he gets such really good artists too with him
Oh
doing
yeah,
his books. So
the art and why is beautiful, and of course Saga, of course.
I think actually why The Last Man was the series that impressed upon me that Brian K. Vaughan is a force to be reckoned with, and I will read anything he puts out.
Yes,
And
here, here.
since then I have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying Paper Girls.
Okay, George. So shall we move on to the other parts of the book?
Yeah, let's barrel through them. Barrel
So
through them.
so yeah,
Because
well,
neither one of us has any money left anyway, so
that's
we're
true.
just going to touch on them very briefly. That's all.
That's right. So you mentioned ROM before with the Free Comic Book Day. Well, guess what? IDW has that three-letter word. I think it's a new ongoing series, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Chris,
they're using the bad guys that they used to use in the old Marvel series, or
the
well, at least when it started.
yeah, the Dire Wraiths.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were going to do that, but they're the bad boys right now.
So this is by Christos Gage and Chris Ryall. They're the writers. David Messina is doing the art with J.H. Williams III covers.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
lot of variants out there.
Well, yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
did you see what they're doing on the other books?
Are they doing ROM variants?
They're doing ROM. It is ROM cover month for the
There,
other
there
books.
you go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Sweet.
Are you a variant cover guy?
Not really.
Yeah,
No.
me neither. I
I
know some people like to get them all. I really don't.
no. I appreciate them. I mean, because a lot of the variants are really cool looking, but no, I tend not to buy those at all.
Yeah, same here.
So George, tell me what excites you about ROM?
I don't, you know what? I think, like I said before, I think it's a nostalgia thing. I have very good memories of ROM. And in fact, further on in the IDW section of the book, they have the Micronauts. And I loved the Micronauts also back when Marvel had them in the 80s. And Tony, my co-host, he's not a comic book collector, but one of the series that he remembers fondly from his youth is ROM. And I was shocked about it. And when he brought it up, we were talking about. I said, "Why don't they collect that?" And I told him there's a whole licensing thing, and you're never going to see that collected. You're going to have to just go to conventions with me and try and find them in dollar bins or something. And all of a sudden, they announce IDW has ROM and the Micronauts.
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember that first issue of ROM. I never had the action figure, but I just remember the first issue of ROM. And was it Sal Buscema or John Buscema? Oh, just the artwork I loved. I loved the concept of ROM. And again, with uh, the Micronauts, I think, was one of the first comics that went direct market back when they were toying with the idea of taking them off of the newsstands
Mm-hmm.
and going directly to comic book stores. I think that was one of the first ones to do it.
That rings a bell.
Uh,
Yeah.
the writing and the artwork for comics specifically related to toys, it, you could forget that. At least as a kid, I could forget it. I didn't think it was pandering to selling me toys. It was more the storytelling, and they got the right writers on those books, and they got the right artists. And it was a shame when they got canceled, but they had their run. They had a good run, and now to bring them back for a new generation, I just hope that uh, people embrace these characters the way I did back when I was a kid. And when I say people embrace them, I'm not talking about those who are nostalgic like me. I'm talking about 20-year-olds that have never heard of ROM or the Micronauts before.
Hmm.
I hope they think the concepts are interesting enough to pick up and check out, and then maybe even go back to the back issues and try and see what the classic writers and artists did with them.
Yeah, yeah. I actually missed out on the whole ROM phenomenon
Oh yeah.
back in the day, but I did end up for some reason in my collection. I don't have it now or any longer, but I did have a ROM annual. I think it was
Hmm.
where he teamed up with a bunch of other constructs. I don't know what the robots or what I don't know what the
Oh, like
correct
Space Knights, a bunch of
Space
Space
Knights.
Knights.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was totally blanking on that term. So yeah, he teamed up with a bunch of these other Space Knights, and I thought it was really cool that each one of them had a specialty
Hmm.
and a different look and everything. And I always thought that just that concept was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a fondness for the character, but I never really got into it. But it's kind of neat to see that it's back.
And he looked cool too. I liked doodling. I'm in no way an artist, but just doodling Rom back in the day. I can remember doing it in a little notebook that not like he was easy to draw, not like he was hard to draw. Just there was something about him that just connected. I guess it was the character design. And again, whoever designed that action figure did a fantastic job.
Hmm. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because again, speaking of that annual that I used to have, I thought that the other Space Knights had better looks than Rom. It seemed like in comparison, Rom
Rom
was
was a
kind
little
of
too simple.
a little too simple. But
Hmm.
for obvious reasons, he was the toy, and these were just other characters that the writer
Right.
artist threw in for that
Hmm.
storyline. But yeah, anyway, George, is there anything else in IDW that you want to talk about?
Well, I already touched on the Micronauts. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's something you're interested in. The first one I don't think's actually out yet, even though they're soliciting number 4 here. It must be coming out soon.
Hmm.
You don't happen to buy any of the other licensed properties, do you?
I get the Star Trek stuff, and
Oh, yes, that's true. Yeah, you do get the Star Trek stuff. So,
so there's a bunch of
uh,
stuff here to talk about. But if
yeah,
there's
anything special there that floats your boat?
Well, yeah, well, all of it actually, because they had or maybe ongoing currently at the time of this recording, but the Starfleet Academy miniseries is finally getting traded, which means I'll be getting it and I'll be able to read that. I've heard some positive things about it. And then there's a new Star Trek New Visions from John Byrne,
Yeah,
where
how are those photo books? I hear you raving about them.
they're so much fun.
Are they really?
They
I've always wanted to pick one up, and I never have.
Oh, if you do, George, I recommend you just buy one of the trades instead of buying the individual issues, just so you get
Okay.
a bunch of them together. But
All
yeah,
right.
there's so much fun. John Byrne obviously is having a lot of fun with it, and it's just really cool. And I've said this before, but it's really cool to see the original series cast in new Star Trek stories, so to speak.
Right.
Uh,
And it's great that he does that. Although I would like to see his artwork again, but I love that he does that and he's actually still involved.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's very true. But this one is special because, and they're even calling it a special because he's adapting the Cage, the
Yeah.
original pilot for Star Trek, in this. So I'm not sure. I hope he doesn't do just a straight up adaptation. He does something, adds some things to it because quite honestly, the Cage, being a longtime fan of Star Trek, the Cage is required watching, but at the same time, it's also it's okay. It's not it's not really that special.
Maybe he tries to take it from another point of view or
I
something.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
hope
something else was going on in the background in
yeah,
his mind or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'll be getting it, and then finally, Star Trek wise, and George, I have to admit, when I first saw this, my jaw figuratively dropped because Star Trek number 59, which is the first part of a two-part series finale of this series.
Uh-oh.
So
Hmm.
for some reason they're stopping this run. So this run at IDW for Star Trek, written, I believe, all of these issues have been written by Mike Johnson, with
Hmm.
various artists. Tony Shastine's doing the art right now, but has it's been really great. It started the same month as the New 52, so you know the DC books should have been up to issue 59. if they hadn't done some things that they did, stopping,
Hmm.
for several weeks or months or whatever. Anyway,
Right.
that's
Another thing we can complain about another episode.
beside the point. But anyway, this is a series finale. I'm so bummed about that because this book has been so good and so strong for it will be 60 issues. And so they're going out on it with a bang because the crew of the Enterprise encounter themselves. So obviously they're bringing the two timelines together in some fashion,
Wow.
and that's going to be, I think, a hoot.
You think they'll bring it back after the movie this summer?
Oh, I'm sure
Yeah, there's
in
probably some
some way,
rebranding, whatever happens in the movie.
or
Maybe it'll get addressed in the comics or something.
yeah, or maybe IDW no longer has the license and
Yeah,
they're
you never
ending
know. They
it.
could
Yeah,
very well be. Yeah. Hmm.
so that's too bad. I'm really going to miss that book.
Believe it or not, I actually buy the Godzilla books.
Oh yeah.
I do. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, basically the stories are kind of the same, but I don't know. I guess I just like seeing the big monsters. I don't...
Well, I love Godzilla. I love the movies, the old movies. But yeah, I never got into any of the comics that they've done.
I loved how they handled the first series, and while the series that followed, kind of the same, a little bit different here and there, but I mean, how much different could the storytelling be when you're talking about these big monsters, right? So, but I'm a sucker for it, so I still do pick them up and I enjoy them.
Yeah.
You don't happen to read Ragnarok by Walt Simonson, do you?
I actually have the first hardcover for that. So I haven't read it, but it's on my shelf to read, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've wanted to jump in myself when that first hardcover came out, so that I'm gonna have to pick that up.
Oh, here.
Anything else from IDW on your list?
Yes. As I'm scrolling down, I remember there was one more thing, and as I was scrolling down, I was also looking at all the ROM variant covers for all the various books. So they look pretty cool.
They do.
Yeah, Gutter Magic. This is the trade for Gutter Magic by Rich. I want to say Duick, and Brent Barkley. So this was a mini series. I think it's 4 issues. That when I first saw the first issue, I'm like, I want to read that, but I decided to wait for the trade, and well, here it is. And so, just as a reminder, in case people don't know, this is it's an urban fantasy where with the alternate history, New York, where long ago World War II was fought with magic, and so this is the fallout of that. But
Hmm.
just the concept just makes me really interested in reading that book.
Yeah, now see that blurb piques my interest.
Right.
Yeah,
I like I said, I think the smaller publishers do a better job
I
at getting your interest.
like
And
even something as simple as Tales from the Dark Side by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez from Lock and Key.
oh yeah.
This was the pitch that Joe Hill had to revive this TV series, and now he's putting it in comic book form.
Hmm.
This might be something I might be interested in. Unfortunately, with all the other books I buy, I'm not quite sure this would go within the budget, but something I'm keeping my eye on in case I drop something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely with that creative team, you want to keep an eye on that at the very least.
Yeah, or maybe eventually if it gets collected like they all do.
Oh yeah, for sure. George, for me, finally, the last thing I'll mention for IDW, and I only mention this because of my granddaughters. I knew number one Powerpuff Girls.
Ah, yes, the Powerpuff Girls.
So I assume that that's going to, or if not tie in, then it's at least promoting the new TV series, that the new cartoon that is currently out. But I know that Madison again especially loves the Powerpuff Girls, so I'll probably be getting that for her as well. And My Little Pony for the my other girl Gabby, because she loves horses.
What did they buy the Disney related stuff from IDW by any chance?
No, I haven't been getting that for them.
Okay,
I uh, I try to steer them towards my tastes as well.
there you go.
To try maybe get them into 'cause like I said, Madison loves Batgirl, Gabby loves Supergirl. So when the Supergirl series comes out from DC, I'll be getting that as well for her.
Mhm.
So I just want
Everybody can read it. Everybody in
Exactly.
the house can read it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I just wanted to be able to, have them read the stuff and have them talk with me and engage for the things that I like as well. But if they ever showed interest in these other books, and I bought several different, quote unquote all ages books for them over the years, and I mean they're the ones that said I want Batgirl, I want Supergirl. Um, but I know, like I said, they
Because you're
definitely
proud, right? You're a very proud man when you get that right.
I am. It didn't work with my daughter, my younger daughter. I really tried, but it didn't work. It didn't take. So I'm really pleased that my granddaughters are into this stuff. So
The one thing about the Disney stuff that piques my interest, although again, I don't know if it's going to fit on the list. They're doing a mini series of Mickey Mouse stories based on the shorts, the new shorts that they put on the Disney Channel.
oh yeah.
And I was only introduced to those when I stayed at a Disney property last year with some friends of mine, and their kids watched that channel all the time, so they were aware of them. But when you're on the Disney property, what do they have on? All Disney stuff.
Of
And
course.
all they had on in the lobby were these shorts. And the animation is a little different. The only way I could describe it, it's almost Ren and Stimpy like, although
Yes.
it's, I mean, the content isn't like that, but that's
That
the
art
animation
style.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
that it reminded me of. So it looks like they're going to use that art style in this new miniseries. So again, not sure that I'm picking it up, but it's out there for, and again, my friends' kids,
Yep.
perfect audience for that since they watch those shorts.
Boy, I'm glad, George, you mentioned the what you thought the animation style was like, because I thought that too, and I mentioned that to somebody one time. They're like, I don't get it. I don't see the connection there. So,
Oh, great minds think alike, my friend.
all right. Anything else for IDW?
Yeah, really quick. I don't know if you buy artist editions. I mean, I can't afford them, but just to see that there is an artist edition of the New Mutants by Bill Sienkiewicz. I don't know if, again, another guy whose name I've been butchering for 30 years, but man, when he took over that book,
Oh
when I was
yeah.
collecting that book, I mean, that was a drastic artistic change. But I had loved his work on Moon Knight, and when he took over on the New Mutants, I mean, I was loving it. And to see
Hmm.
that there it exists an artist edition that maybe I'm not picking it up now, but maybe someday it will be on my shelf. That's a good thing.
Yeah. No, I've yet to buy one of those artist editions, but man, I look at them every time they come out with one. I'm like, oh, this looks so good.
Yeah, don't they though? But again, they're pretty pricey. So unless I win one at an auction or a raffle or something, I don't think
Right.
any will be on my bookshelf
Right.
anytime soon.
And I'll tell you what, since we're talking about that, if Marvel ever decided to put out, and maybe they have, and I just haven't noticed, but if they put out like new trade versions of the New Mutant series, I would totally buy all those.
Hmm.
Because I didn't actually buy the single issues back then. My good friend Travis did, and I read
Mhm.
his, and I absolutely loved it. So it'd be nice to have those out again,
Those
out
were a
and
lot of
about.
fun. When and at the time when the series started with Marvel graphic novel, I forget what number it was, number four, number five, but the X-Men were on some adventure and everybody thought they were dead. And here was a graphic novel introducing these five new characters, Professor X finding new mutants. And when it went into their own series, I mean, I was just on board from the beginning.
Hmm.
Yeah. Did I just age myself? I always do that when I'm on your show.
So do I. It- It's all good.
Yeah.
Should we move on to Image?
Let's do it.
Oh boy. So here, we talk about DC taking all my money. Image just reaches into my wallet and grabs all my cash because there's such good stuff each and every
Oh,
month from this
okay, now
company.
here's the thing. As much as we're advertising,
Yeah.
we're giving our picks, we're advertising, we're saying even though we can't afford it, you people out there should pick it up, that kind of thing. But here's something about Image. I've noticed here a lot of their solicits. There has come a point which I guess in the back of my mind I knew it would happen. Some of these books are starting to sound the same,
Mm,
even though that there are new creative teams. It's like music. There are just so many chords that you can play in just so many combinations. And with all the new content that's coming out there, it's almost like I'm thinking to myself, maybe they should pull back a little bit on new new issues, new stories until some of these other ones that are similar end.
mm,
Because I don't think any of the new stuff in here actually grabbed my attention. Now I know there's probably stuff that grabbed yours, but what do you think about that? I mean, do you think there's a saturation point where you can have just so many sci-fi stories that are kind of the same, just so many slice of life stories that are a little bit similar? Have you felt any sort of burnout on any of these?
I would say burnout. However, you have a really great point. There was a couple times there in the last, I don't know, I'll say a couple years now, where I was looking at these. Again, this has to do with the solicitation text, right? Because the
Exactly.
Image,
Exactly.
I don't think Image does a good job either, just like DC and Marvel. But um, uh, despite being a smaller publisher, so to speak, but there for a while, it seemed like there were a bunch of books, and it wasn't necessarily just from Image, but there was a bunch of books coming out where the main character would wake up and have no memory of who they are and how they got there, or dystopian futures were huge in the last year. And yeah, that once I start seeing those similarities, I get turned off real fast.
It's like there was a criticism of there was a criticism of the Marvel movies where I heard somebody say something, and it's true because I think I even noticed it myself, but never really put two and two together, where a lot of the Marvel movies were just you have your hero and then you have the doppelganger. The villain happens to have the same
Oh, right.
power set as the hero, and now it's just that the hero has to outsmart that person or something like that. Ant-Man being one of the most recent examples
Hmm.
where the villain got a suit just like Ant-Man's. Now he's Yellow Jacket and he can shrink, and pretty much it depends who has more firepower at that point. Iron Man had Ironmonger. Things like that. And when it comes to the similarities to some stories, I'm gonna call one out that I enjoyed them both. You had Thor, God of Thunder, not the new the current version, but the one where there was the God Bomb and the God Butcher,
Hmm.
where the villain wanted to get rid of all the gods. Well, what's going on in Doctor Strange right now by the same writer? There's a Somebody wants to get rid of all magic, and it's really the same story, just a different character.
Huh.
And that's what I'm finding almost in some of the solicits for the Image titles. Some of them are a little too similar for me, and I don't want to stifle. I'm in no way saying stifle all creation. Don't accept any more stories from anybody. But as the consumer, now that I have to discriminate because I only have X amount of dollars to spend, I'm not really interested in any of the number ones that are in Image this month.
Oh, okay.
That being said, why don't you tell us what you're interested in?
Well, okay. There's a new Brian Lee O'Malley book, and this is not because I'm interested in it, because I mention it only because it's Brian Lee O'Malley. Uh, but I simply can't bring myself to get this because it's called Snot Girl,
Yeah. Oh,
and
jeez.
if you saw the cover image of this, with the tissues coming out of her
Yes.
nose. It says, "Enter a
Yes.
world of snot, blood, and tears in this new series from."
We all need snot in our lives.
Oh my God, I can't, I can't. That stuff. I'm almost a germaphobe, George. So that kind of stuff, I have no desire to read about. So, but if you're a Brian Lee O'Malley fan, I guess that'd be good to read.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
There's another. Here's a new number one, Throwaways. I only mention this because I read the text, because
Hmm.
so when I'm buzzing through this, I look at the title, I read the text, and I form my real quick yay nay kind of opinion about it, and then like I said, I go back. The only reason I kind of want to slow down on this one, or at least mention it, is because it's written by Caitlin Kittredge.
Mm.
Steven Sanders does the art, but Caitlin Kittredge of Coffin Hill, and I loved that book from Vertigo. So I guess I kind of have to pay more attention to this and decide if I want to get it or not, or probably wait for the
Right.
trade, most likely. But
I can only imagine what your bookshelf looks like, or your bookshelves, I should say.
yeah, yeah. I should take a picture and put it on Instagram so you can take a look at it, George. It's
Is it becoming more like instead of long box review, it's long shelf review?
yeah, pretty much. I got one wall almost full of trades,
Nice.
essentially. So anyway, I think this next book, I think a couple of these books may have been announced at the Image Expo, and Travis and I talked about this on the last episode, but I might be misremembering some of these. But Horizon, it's a science fiction tale about another world that is being invaded by us, people from Earth,
Hmm.
and what that alien person is going through because of that. That interested me to begin with, so here it is finally here it is in being solicited. So I might want to pick that up.
Hmm.
Let's see here. There's a few more, but I'll just skip over those for now. Oh, the Miller World Annual 2016. So you got Mark Miller uh, doing it's the first annual. It's the result of his international creator search,
I
seeking
remember that.
the
Yeah.
the best new writers and artists to tackle Mark Miller's extensive library of hit characters, from Kick-Ass to Chrononauts. They're all here in this, as it says, instant collector's item. So that might be, it's $2.99 for 32 pages, so that's not too bad
Yeah.
for
No, especially
one
these
shot.
days.
Yeah, if you like Miller stuff, which he's hit or miss for me, but let's see.
Have you been enjoying the Jupiter's Circle, Jupiter's Legacy
Oh
line?
yes, those two series. I have been loving that, especially
Mm.
the is it Jupiter's Circle? That's the one that's going on right now.
That's the one that would
Flashback
be, I
one.
would say, yes, right. That would be the flashback one.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Those. So he's had two of those now.
Yes.
Those I love those.
And I
I
think
love that
Jupiter's
stuff.
Legacy is, I guess it would be called Jupiter's Legacy 2,
Right.
is solicited this month for an image.
Yes. Yeah. Issue number
Yeah.
2.
Oh, oh, oh.
So
Oh,
last month.
issue 2 is this month? Oh, so
Yep.
last month it started
Yep.
again. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Started again. So that's
Yeah.
good news. Excellent
Hmm.
news. Good stuff there. Let's see here, George. I think maybe I'm done with Image.
Are you a Paper Girls fan by Brian K. Vaughan?
You know what? I made that comment about about Brian K. Vaughan. Uh, this is the first series where I'm kind of lukewarm about his book.
Oh, okay.
I, I I enjoy it. I especially like the Cliff Chang art. But so far, the story hasn't really grabbed me like everything else he's done. So, but that's bound to happen.
Right, yeah. I He got me on the slick covers, the Cliff Chang covers.
Oh yeah.
So I picked it up based on the pedigree, and they sucked me in again. His writing style sucked
Uh-huh.
me in. In fact, that's how I got involved in Sex Criminals. I had no intention of buying Sex Criminals, but that cover for number one was just sitting there on top of the right near the cash register on a stand, and I said that cover is beautiful. I got to
Uh-huh.
pick this up, and sure enough, I got hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't take much sometimes, right?
No, darn covers.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. There is one more thing I want to mention. I feel obligated to mention this. It's the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund Liberty trade paperback. So
Yes.
this,
Have you bought any of these before?
oh yeah, every year I buy the Liberty Annual,
Hmm.
and so this collects the Liberty Annuals from 2008 to 2012. I think I'm only missing a few of those. Anyway, but all proceeds from this benefit the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and I think it's a worthwhile cause, and any comic fan should consider helping out the
I agree, and it's priced
CBLGF.
right, and it all goes right to the fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, kudos to Image for putting this out probably at little to no profit. Well, it says all proceeds, so no profit whatsoever. So that's great.
On the page prior to that in the print edition, I will say there's a paperback of Astronauts in Trouble. I had always been curious about that series. That might be something I pick up.
Yeah, I that's been kind of on my radar, low on my radar, but yeah,
And I think it's a self-contained story. I don't think it would go beyond this trade paperback collection.
yeah. Well,
So I think it would all just be in that one volume.
so the series only went to issue 11.
Again, I'm not sure about that, but it doesn't say volume one on it. So wouldn't
Oh,
it say volume one if it was a continuing thing? Or
you
I guess no, maybe it wouldn't.
yeah, they seem to be inconsistent, and not just Image, but a lot of companies seem to be inconsistent about how they label their trades of ongoing series. I wish they
Yeah, I
would
guess I
kind
would
of
have to look
standardize
into
on
that.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I might have to look into that before I pull the trigger on that one. But that would be it for Image for me.
Okay. What's next? Marvel?
Ah, yes, Marvel.
Okay. I don't have much to say here, George.
I agree with you. Now, okay, I have the print edition. Now, when you see it online, I'm not quite sure if this carries the point home, but when you read the print edition of Marvel Previews,
Hmm.
it seems like half of this book is all Civil War II tie-ins.
Yeah.
And I have no interest in Civil War II. So unless it's a book that I'm already collecting, I'd be picking up that issue anyway. Otherwise, I'm not buying any of these other Civil War II tie-ins. How do you feel about Civil War II?
Yeah, I generally I'm actually unlike my good friend Travis, longtime co-host of the show.
Yes.
He does not
Good
like
guy. I like it when he's on.
yeah he does not like event books, as longtime listeners will know. But I, on the other hand, generally like them. I like to see what the new thing is, the new direction they want to go, just to see the story and how it unfolds. But I actually decided to not participate with this one, and I'm not entirely sure why. But yeah, for like you said, it seems like at least half, if not more than half, of what's going on in Marvel right now is Civil War II related, and I just have no interest.
I collect very few Marvel books right now, and they all seem to be what I would call fringe titles, almost like I would consider Grayson. Grayson, I would have considered a fringe DC title.
Hmm.
Uh, I collect Patsy Walker, and Patsy Walker this month is indeed a Civil War tie-in, although I have the feeling it'll be a little humorous. I don't think it's going to be very serious.
Yeah.
Let's see if there are any others. Is this a Civil War tie-in? Oh well, the Vision is not a Civil War tie-in because it's its own thing. So I buy the Vision, which you do too, or do you trade weight on
Oh no, I'm getting that month by month.
that? Yeah, there's. I don't think if you read any issue one of that, I don't think anybody could wait for a
Yeah.
trade on.
Yeah. Exactly.
What about the Silver Surfers celebrating an anniversary this month? I thought that was last month, but maybe it was like missolicited or something like that. Do you read the Silver Surfer?
No, I did. I do not, but I should because it's all red, right, on the art.
Oh yeah, and again only heard good things about it. And the team that does it now is the team that did it pre Secret Wars.
Right.
So the whole renumbering really didn't change anything. It's the same storyline, same writing and art teams. So it really is a continuation. Could have kept the same numbering if they didn't do that whole world
Right.
thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Believe it or not, I like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but it apparently is not a Civil War II tie-in. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah. No doubt. It seems
And
like
I do like Doctor Strange.
I was just gonna
I do
say,
read Doctor Strange.
yeah, Doctor Strange doesn't say anything about Civil War II, which is good, but it is the thrilling conclusion of the last days of magic.
And depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I don't know if I'm going to continue with it. It depends how the story ends. Because there are so many other things out there that I want to sample and using the same phrase I've been using all show, stick my toe in the water on.
Hmm.
I'm Doctor Strange. I might wind up dropping. I'm not sure. It
Ah,
really depends how that story ends.
yeah.
One of the only other things in Marvel, I have been enjoying some of their Disney property comics, and while I haven't read an issue of it yet, I am buying The Haunted Mansion.
Ah, those covers look pretty cool.
They do, and my wife's name is Connie, and in the first issue, the variant cover was a one of those action figure variants that looked like an action figure, uh, one of those blister packs, and it was Constance the Bride. So I had to pick
Oh,
that one up. I'm not normally a variant cover guy, as I said before, but I had to get that one. And I think, are you buying any Star Wars comics?
no,
Me
no.
neither. I've been thinking about whether or not I want the Han Solo one, but to be honest with you, the description of what this Han Solo miniseries is doesn't interest me. So as much as he's one of my favorite characters in the whole Star Wars universe, I don't think I'm picking that book up.
Yeah. Now, Star Wars, I like Star Wars well enough, but I'm a Star Trek guy, so Star
Oh
Wars
yes, yes.
Star Wars is okay.
And I have to be honest with you, I think they're almost saturating the market a little too much.
Oh my gosh.
I think I would be more into it if there was just one Star Wars book.
Hmm.
Like back in the day when there was only the one Star Wars movie and you could do anything you wanted with those characters as silly or as crazy as you wanted because you didn't know what was going to happen in Empire Strikes Back. You didn't even know there was going to be an Empire Strikes Back. So they could do whatever they wanted. Now because of all they have to stick to canon and they know what's going to go on in the movies and stuff like that. And they're using all these characters all over the place with so many titles. Uh, I think you would just have to be such a devoted Star Wars fan to really get into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, with just so much out there, I've decided not to get into the whole Star Wars thing.
I
Any
did.
trades come to mind or nah?
Well, see, I was just going to say that it's the trade section of Marvel that interests me. One of the things I just want to spotlight is the Machine Man by Kirby and Ditko
Ah,
complete
me
trade
too. I was going to
paperback.
ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I I I only mention it because Machine Man's one of those oddball characters, and those are the ones I particularly like.
Same
Um,
here.
I have to say though, I'm not a big fan of Ditko.
Same here.
But I understand the appeal. So there's that, and there's the Guardians of the Galaxy Classic in the year 3000 trade paperback.
Mm,
So here are my Guardians of the Galaxy. Although this is stuff from the 19 it says 1990,
yeah, the Kevin West
1988.
stuff.
Yeah, I didn't read any of that, but it features characters that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Mockingbird gets an Agent of Shield, Bobby Morris, Agent of Shield, so they're tying into the whole Agents of Shield TV series
Right.
with this character. I just find that interesting. So they have all this stuff from it says it looks like mostly 1970s, yeah, mostly 1970s, and they're including the 1983 Hawkeye miniseries where they
Oh, and
put
that was
those,
good. I remember that fondly.
yeah, they put those two characters together where they actually got married. That was a really cool tale. So that's interesting. They're doing that. Black Panther by Christopher Priest, the complete collection, volume 4, which means I'll have to get that because I have the other three.
We're all
And
completionists, aren't we?
well, I just heard over the years and from sources whom I trust their opinion about these things. It's a good series, and I've read a few issues from that run, and I have to agree just based on that limited exposure. So I've been getting the complete collections mostly by virtue of those other people's opinions. So I'm hoping that the really good series continues on through these later issues, but I'm sure that will be the case.
Are you going to buy the new Black Panther series or no?
I am. I do have that.
Oh.
I read the first issue, and I am withholding judgment until I read some more. So
Fair enough.
take that as you will. Anything from Marvel for you, George? Anything else?
No, no, that Machine Man one did get my attention. If it has a good discount on DCBS, I'll probably pick it up.
Okay.
I have those Hulk issues in there, but I don't have any of those Machine Man issues. I always thought I always thought his first appearance was in the Marvel comic book version of 2001: A Space Odyssey, the comic. I always thought that's where he started, and I was surprised not to see that as part of this book. But I guess I'm mistaken about that.
Huh. Yeah, so it does say the complete Machine Man epic. And if you're right about
Yeah.
that, huh.
Maybe he was just introduced there. You know, it's very easy to Google it, and I'm not going to do it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I maybe by epic they mean there's this whole one big massive story arc or something that really just started in Machine Man #1. So
Well, and it is focusing on Kirby and Ditko as well.
right, I mean, and he had other appearances
Yeah.
elsewhere too. So I can see where they're going with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. All
Yeah, but I'm done with
right.
Marvel.
Okay. So that brings us to the back of the book, and there's just a few things here that I have.
Sure, same here.
For Archie comics,
Ah, Archie.
There is they're finally bringing back the Sabrina series, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So they're soliciting issue number 6. Now, I did not read the other issues of this. I came into the whole Archie horror stuff
Hmm.
with the Archie trade that they
The
did.
Afterlife with Archie
The
one.
after, yes, exactly. Thank you.
Hmm.
And then I saw that they were doing the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I'm like, oh, I want to read that if it's going to be like
Yeah.
the Afterlife with Archie. So I decided to wait for the trade for that one. Well, then they kind of stopped both series for a while, but
Yeah, that was weird.
I'm really pleased to see that they're coming back, which means, of course, I hope to see a trade for Sabrina. I think actually I think it's in here. Um,
Yeah.
so let me just scroll down real quick just to verify. Pretty sure. Show me the money. Yes, it
I
is.
think you're right. Hmm.
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina trade paperback. Yes, finally I can read that. It looks so
Yeah,
good.
and you know something? I might do the same thing.
Yeah,
I didn't pick up the single issues, but I might do the same thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
really good. It's the Afterlife with Archie was so good.
It was. It was.
The other thing I want to mention from Archie is that Adam Hughes is doing a Betty and Veronica comic,
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
and there are, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to count them, but it's like a good 5 inches of text here of all the variant covers by all these
Uh-huh.
different artists. Amazing.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, all you really need is the Adam Hughes one,
One,
though. The main
right?
Adam Hughes one.
Right? Yeah. Boy, I'm interested only because I want to see Adam Hughes do some work other than
Same here.
his covers, right?
I agree.
So, and he's writing it too.
Yes. Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah,
that
so I'm going to pick this one up. I tried Archie, I tried Jughead, and I see what they're doing, and it's nice that they finally put out Benny and Veronica, but I I lament the absence of classic Archie on the shelves, except for the digests.
right.
In my opinion, they should have at least kept the regular Archie title going, or if you wanted to call it Laugh or Pep or whatever you wanted to call it. Um, they should have kept that going because, again, I think they're catering to an older crowd,
Right.
whereas I think all children should at least have an opportunity to start the comic book reading careers with Archie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the current versions of Archie give give them that opportunity. And I'm not quite sure. Maybe they're picking up digests at grocery stores and stuff, but I don't know how many comic book stores even carry digests. So sure, there are other ways for kids to get in the comics, but they're not going to be reading Civil War II or Rebirth, that's for sure. So if you're not going to have Richie Rich and Casper like we had when we were kids, at least give them Archie. And I think by not doing that, that's another disservice for the future of our hobby.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
They should have done both. I don't have a problem with what they're doing, but I need them to get off my lawn, and I need them to put out the regular Archie.
I think you're right, and that would have been a good way to, if they named it Pep or Archie's Pep or something to tie into Pep Comics, right? That would have been awesome.
Right.
That's a great idea.
I saw no reason why they couldn't do both. I mean, there was when Marvel tried to do their Ultimate line, they had their Ultimate line and they had their regular stuff that they just kept putting out. You could have done both with Archie, and I know there's a cost factor in there, but what's Dan Parent going to do now?
Right.
He's out of a job, right? So a lot of people can do alternate covers and stuff, but I think there's a disservice out there by not having that type of an Archie comic on the shelves.
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
And again, get off my lawn.
Well, should we get off the Archie publisher pages and move on to something
May
else?
as well. Hmm.
Okay. So George, what I have next is something from Boom. Do you have anything between Archie and Boom?
No.
All right. So from Boom Studios is, well, speaking of pandering to perhaps older readers, or to the nostalgia that we have for these properties, we have the Kong of Skull Island miniseries.
Is this a book that you would pick up?
No.
No, yeah, I have to
No,
admit, me neither. As much
but
as I like the Godzilla book, I'm not sure I would pick this up.
okay, that's what I was going to ask you because yeah, I see those two similar in vein, right? But just the idea of having King Kong on Skull Island, and I don't know, I just like that concept. It just I love King Kong. Like I said, I like Godzilla. So
They need to do a crossover, is what they need to do now.
exactly, that's exactly right. That's what they need to do. I would buy that.
I was thumbing through the print version over here, and just to let you know, I don't know if you realize this, but a company called Automatic Pictures Publishing is putting out that Spectrum book that's going to be part of Free Comic Book Day.
Okay.
Con Man Spectrum #2 is being solicited in this month's previews for July. So I guess it starts in June.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, so I don't know if that's something that you're interested in, but I happen to see that. Automatic Pictures Publishing, that's who's doing that.
Oh shoot, I may have to go amend my order because I don't think I ordered #1 because I was going to get that.
Okay, yeah. So check that out if you're able to do anything with your order for June.
All right, thank you for telling me about that.
No problem.
Let's see. I don't think there's anything else in Boom. I just wanted to mention that Kong thing, just like I said, for nostalgia's sake.
Well, in the print version on the next page, there's a book called The Signature Art of Brian Stelfreeze, the
Oh,
artist on the current Black Panther book.
mm-hmm.
And just the pages that they show on this in the solicitation, they're beautiful. I don't know. This is a book I would want on my bookshelf. I just don't know if I can afford to have it on my bookshelf right now. But if anybody's a fan of Brian Stelfreeze's work, they should at least take a look at the solicitation and see the pages that are available to see in this month's previews.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they have this here, but all I see is like the cover image, and yeah, that looks beautiful.
Other than that, when it comes to any new stuff, I don't have anything on my list. There's some ongoing stuff that I've been buying from Boom, but we can skip that stuff since we're running long.
Okay. Next on my list are stuff from Dynamite.
Do you have anything on the Dynamite list?
So to mention, boy, the nostalgia trip just keeps going.
Well, especially with Dynamite.
The $6 Million Man Fall of Man miniseries.
Yeah. Did you buy any of the $6 Million Man or Bionic Woman comics
No,
from
no,
Dynamite in the past?
no, but I was interested,
Me
because
too.
I loved the $6 Million Man. That was one of my favorite shows as a kid. Uh,
And
but
some of those Alex Ross covers were beautiful.
yes,
I
right?
mean, that they got him to do some of those covers, and I mean, right there, worth the price of admission. And I really did want to read those books. One of these days, I'm going to have to just buy some trades at a convention or something
Mhm.
like that. I really want to pick those up.
Well, this when they finally trade this series, I probably will get this because so the year is set. This is the text. The year is 1979. Iran has seized American hostages. Colombian drug cartels run rampant. Le Chic's Freak Out dominates the charts. Amid this deeply troubled world, Steve Austin is America's best hope in its fight against innumerable enemies. But unfortunately, here's this old trope. He discovers disturbing secrets in OSI's past, and he has to use his cybernetic upgrades to rebel against the agency. And then has a bunch of he faces plenty of threats like an enemy cyborg and lasers and ninjas. So they're definitely ramping up the action quota in this book. But just the idea of them setting it in the year 1979 interests me for some reason.
Yeah, one of these days, I'm just going to pick up all those books. They look like they're a lot of fun, and this one looks no different. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. What about their other properties? Like, for instance, I see they're crossing over the Lone Ranger with the Green Hornet. Any interest in that?
No, not really, unfortunately.
Okay, there we go. Then we'll just pass right over that one.
Well, what about that interests you? Other
Well, you know
than
what it is? I my attention gets they catch my attention when they mix the properties. So, for
sure,
instance, like the Batman 66 with Steed and Peel, or when they did with the Man from Uncle, or when they did it with the Green Hornet. Here they're doing this little mix up. They're also a little further in the solicitation, they have the Twilight Zone and the Shadow. Just when they mix these things up, it gets my attention. Whether or not I buy them is another story, but I think that it's an interesting concept, and I do take a look at it. And you know what? I never hear a lot about it because I guess because it's on the fringe. I never hear a lot of people talking about these kind of mix mashups, uh, but they do interest me, and every once in a while I pick them up, and I don't get disappointed very often, which surprises me.
Hmm.
Again, whether or not that could fit into the budget in July is another story, though.
Well, I have to agree with you. Anytime I see that they throw these disparate characters together, these properties together like this,
Mhm.
yeah, I always it always shows up on my radar. But for the most part, I used to watch Lone Ranger as a kid, but as a character whose comic book stories I want to read, not really. So I just kind of pass over those.
Yeah.
It's just a little blip in the radar, so to speak.
Anything else in the Dynamite section?
So Garth Ennis's Red Team. I didn't even know that there was such a thing, but this is I think this is a continuation of that. It's a second volume, if you will.
Yeah.
But a lot of people I know like Garth Ennis, and there's that. So it's called Double Tap Center Mass, and it's a 9-issue series. And I think that's about it for Dynamite for me.
I might myself pick up the Shaft original novel,
Mm.
the reprint, because I liked the David Walker series that they had last year, and they have the new series going on right now, which I'm going to wait for the trade paperback on it. But I enjoyed David Walker's take on Shaft when he did it for Dynamite last year, so that was a lot of fun. So I've never read the original Shaft novel, so this might be a good opportunity to do that.
Mm. You know what? I've never seen the movies.
Oh, I've only seen the original. I don't know of any sequels or anything like that. I've only seen the original, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I,
I think I should at least watch the original one.
I probably wasn't even old enough to appreciate it. I should go back and revisit it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I know of Shaft more than I know anything really about Shaft. So that's
I would bet you that statement not only goes for Shaft for a lot of people, but for a lot of other properties out there.
that's true. Yeah.
People know a lot about, or at least know of some property, but they've never read any of what that property is.
Hmm.
I'm guilty of it for a lot of
Oh,
things.
sure. Me too.
Mhm.
For sure. I did find something else here from Dynamite. There's this Justice Incorporated, the Avenger trade paperback. So, the only reason I kind of stopped on this is because I want to say that this character or this concept used to be at DC very briefly, way
Hmm.
back in the 70s. I want to
It
say.
it might have been because he's a pulp hero, just like Doc Savage in The Shadow.
Right. So I think maybe they got the rights to it and
Hmm.
put out at least a few issues. Anyway, this is a trade. It doesn't say if it's actually is it an original trade or is it collecting something? It doesn't quite say on
It was
my
a mini
text.
series that they had.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now that you say that, I remember it. But yeah, this is written by Mark Wade and Christopher Sakara
Oh
and
yeah. I don't know how to.
Ronaldson Frere
I've
on art.
butchered plenty of names
Yeah,
tonight. I'm not butchering anymore.
yeah. But Alex Ross does the cover to it. But I just thought it was interesting that they're doing that. It's a great looking cover by Alex Ross, of course.
Of course.
And that will do it for me for Dynamite. Yes.
Same
Yes.
here.
All right. Okay, George, I have next. What do I have? Oni. A couple things from Oni, or some things from Oni to mention.
I'm going to throw one in just
Okay.
alphabetically in the book. There's a publisher called Jet City Comics. Now, did I hear on your show? Do you like time travel stories?
I do.
There's this book called The Chronos Files Time Trial Number One. It's by, oh, now I'm going to have to move my microphone. It's by best-selling author Risa Walker. Here I am butchering names again. Risa Walker taking readers on a time-hopping adventure in this standalone series set in her Chronos Files world. Now, I'm unfamiliar with her work, I'm unfamiliar with the Chronos Files, but if anybody's reading her book, uh, this would be a perfect thing to get. Or if you're interested in time travel stories, it just sounds like this would be fun. 19-year-old Cleo Dunn has lived a life of secrecy. Her world-saving time-traveling parents have kept a low profile in a small town, but she yearns for her own adventure. In the fall of 1931, she packs her bags and heads to the big modern city of Chicago. While following her dreams of becoming a famous illustrator, her own skills as a time traveler are put to the test. A nasty acquaintance from her parents' past stumbles upon Cleo in an unexpected place: the trial of Al Capone. Now Cleo must jump through time to keep the past, present, and future safe. One of four.
Hmm. What? So
Something that sounded pretty interesting and it jumped out at me. I'm a sucker for time travel stories too.
what? George, what was the publisher again?
Jet City Comics.
I wonder if that has anything to do with because there's there in I think it's Portland. There's the Jet City Comic Con
It
in
could be.
in the fall. I wonder if that has anything to do with that. Anyway,
Well,
not necessarily with a con, but that area.
their logo is an airplane, and the cityscape behind them looks like the Space Needle is behind it. I'm not sure.
Ah, maybe it's not Portland. Maybe it's Seattle then.
Yeah, so somewhere in the Northwest anyway.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Although you said the story was set in Chicago.
It was. The story itself is set in Chicago, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Oh yeah. Anything else besides that, George? Before we
No,
hit Oni.
no. I seem to remember you like time travel stories like I do, and since I had it marked off for me, I wanted to let you know about it,
All right. Thank you.
and maybe your listeners if they follow you with your time travel stories too.
So I have just a couple things here from Oni Press to mention. One is it's a new series, I think, called Brick, Brik. This is by Adam Glass, Michael Benson are the writers. Hardwinder Singh is the artist. And the only reason I mention this is because for some reason, George, I'm a sucker for stories involving golems, and that's exactly what this is. Um, so
It's all because of Cavalier and Clay, right? Is that why?
No, not no.
Okay.
I'm not sure why, but for some reason it draws me in.
Well, Adam Glass has impressed me with his Rough Riders comic. Issue number one came out this month
Oh,
from
okay.
Aftershock,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
uh, I mean it's only what 22 pages, a normal size of a comic book, but well written. The art's by Patrick Olive, again another guy whose name if you don't say it out loud, you don't realize you're mispronouncing it. But I remember him doing Thor Core back in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
His artwork is stellar. Uh, I would recommend that book to people. Rough Riders, it just started now, and this is the same writer, Adam Glass.
Very cool. Okay, yeah. So this is actually it says 12 and up. So it's a fantasy adventure book. I assume they're trying to go for a younger audience. Partially because this is 32 pages and it's $1.99.
I know, what a great price these days, right?
Yeah. Let me just real briefly go through the text here. Drew is a bullied kid in the Yonkers neighborhood of New York City. His family faces encroaching violence from Russian gangsters, but his grandfather is killed in an attempt to muscle the family out of the neighborhood. But before he's killed, he's able to pass down to Drew the story of a mysterious but dangerous protector who helped their family during troubled times. And so what he learns is the secret to creating a golem. Is it worth the risk, however, to summon this supernatural avenger to take on the all too human darkness swallowing his world? See, that I'm not sure if that's really a younger reader's type of story,
I
but
know.
I guess it depends on how
Hard,
dark
hard
they
to tell
take
these
it.
days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, golems, I like them for some reason. Let's see here. There's one other thing. Oh, it is the I mention this only because the latest issue just came out, The Sixth Gun.
Mm.
This is volume 9, so I imagine that it doesn't. George, does your previews copy say what issues this collects? Because mine does not.
Let me check. Let me go back.
I would assume it would collect the everything up to where they stopped, but then again, I think it's 47 or 48, and they're going to
Well, it does
50.
say the final volume.
Oh,
While
this
it
is the
doesn't,
final file. Uh,
yes, while it doesn't list the issues, it does say the final volume of the Sixth Gun.
oh, okay. So this, okay, there you go. That's what I thought thought this might be, but I wasn't. I missed that line in there. Okay, so I assume then that
Wait,
this
you
would.
know what? It's not part of the text. It's a like a thought balloon type of thing that they put in. So
Okay,
maybe it wouldn't be part of what you're seeing online.
all right. Well, anyway, so if this is the final volume, here it is, the end of this great. So, are you reading this, George? Have you read The Six Gun?
I am not another book that has received rave reviews all over the place
Uh,
universally, but I have not picked it up.
are you a fan of Western fantasy?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever really read too much Western fantasy, so I would be willing to give it a try.
See, and neither had I until this book, and so I highly recommend it if you get a chance to pick up the trades in some fashion.
This might be a library pick for
Yeah,
me to get them all at once and just knock them out before
yeah,
the due date.
yeah, totally worth it. This is such a good story, such a good story. Which and is the main reason why I pay attention to what Colin Bunn is doing. Although I tend to find that I like his creator-owned work
Mm.
better than
Is this how
than
you got
some.
introduced to Colin Bunn from the Six Gun?
I think so. I think that's
Hmm.
where, yeah. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And it was Travis who turned me on to it. So just shows he has better taste than I do.
Well, it's well priced at $20.
Oh yeah.
If you find a good discount on DCBS for it, it'd probably be a little less than that, but $20 for a volume, not bad.
Well, considering that the final issue number 50, I think, if I remember correctly, is $10 itself.
Oh, was it really? Okay, yeah. So right there, you got a bargain.
I might be wrong about that, but that's what's coming to mind. But you know, it's a huge final issue for that series, and I'm so looking forward to reading this. Do you have anything for Oni that you
Now,
want to
again,
mention?
ongoing stuff that, no need to talk about now since we're short on time.
Okay. All right, and then I have, I think, just one thing here from Valiant. So if you have anything in between Oni and Valiant,
If I do, I'll bring it up after you're done, but
okay.
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right. So uh, Valiant recently, or I think they maybe even be in the midst of publishing the Faith miniseries.
Yeah, I don't know what issues they're up to, but they're close to the end.
Yeah. So apparently they are moving it up to an ongoing. So they're having Faith number
Saw that.
one. This is written by Jody Hauser with R.O. I did not realize this when I first looked at this. Art by Pere Perez and Marguerite Savage.
Oh, wow.
So wow. Because so I read what was the I don't remember the name of the book now where the character Faith was introduced because I
Was
used
it
to read
Harbinger?
Harbinger, yes.
Hmm.
I used to read a bunch of the Valiant stuff when they first started publishing things again. And so I remember Faith being in there, and I really liked her character. I liked the take on her, her outlook on everything. But then I kind of dropped away from Valiant, especially after they stopped with the Adventures of Archer and Armstrong with the creative team that they had before the
Mm.
current team.
Hmm.
So I just kind of walked away from Valiant for a while.
You're going to pick up the new issues of Archer and Armstrong then?
No, I decided
No.
not
Okay.
to on that because
Hmm.
I really loved, and this, it's not fair to this creative team, especially since Mike Norton is doing the art. I did not
Mm.
realize that until just now. Shoot. But I really like that other creative team, and I thought it was a good breaking off point. I'm always looking, like you were talking about, if a mini series is going to stop, then you can maybe add something on. I'm always looking for opportunities like that
Hmm.
to like like you mentioned, cull my pull list a little bit. So I walked away from Valiant, but with this new Faith series, and especially since it's been getting a lot of good press lately, to see that it has it's now an ongoing with that art team, it really makes me curious about it.
I was going to jump into the Faith miniseries myself. I'm not. I really don't buy anything from Valiant. Here and there, I might pick something up. Like for instance, I'm going to check out the first story arc of the new Archer and Armstrong that's starting now. But again, funds came in the way, and I decided not to get started on it. I might pick up the trade of the miniseries, but I'm almost glad I didn't because then I might have gotten fished into the new series. Not that there's anything wrong with the series, but I'm not quite sure I could afford another one right now. It's like, for instance, that Goldie Vance. Are you any interest in that Goldie Vance series from? Now I'm getting confused whether it was Boom or Oni. I think it's by Boom.
I looked at it last month. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. But yeah, I did not. I ended up not ordering it.
Well, one of the reasons I gave it a shot was because it was originally a miniseries, solicited as a four issue. Now I see, as of this July previews, it's an ongoing.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and of course, these things get solicited 2 or 3 months in advance. I haven't read any of it yet. So I'm only going to commit to those first four issues.
Ah.
And I'm actually kind of hoping I don't like it. But isn't that strange? That's very
uh,
strange because I was looking forward. Okay, here's a four-issue thing, whatever, done. I'm not sure I want to get another ongoing because I want that to end so I can try something else. But you never know.
well, this is certainly an example of this is a good problem to have from
Yeah,
the
these
sta
are our first world problems.
Yeah, right. But there's so many good, and if not good, certainly good sounding comic books out there to get
Oh
our
yeah,
attention. But there's so many.
that,
We can only buy so many.
right. And forget it. Even if they were still a buck a piece, forget the price. Where are you going to put them all?
Oh,
The
oh,
the Boiler Room studio is full. You said your shelves are chock a block
yeah.
full of
Don't get me started
trades
on
and
that.
stuff. Yeah.
Uh,
So, but I say keep them coming. That's what I say. Keep them coming.
that's right. Yeah, don't stop publishing just because we're running out of room.
Right. Just because I'm telling you to get off my lawn, do not stop publishing.
Uh, all right, that's all I have, George. Do you have anything else that you want to throw in here?
Yeah, just really quick. I know we're at the end and this is becoming a three-part episode, but uh, I love the Tomorrows stuff. I don't buy it all the time, but I always find that their content is very interesting. And I may actually pick up back issue number 91 only because it's the all jerks issue. People like Guy Gardner,
Uh,
J. Jonah Jameson, Reggie from Archie, characters like that. I just love
cool.
the Tomorrow stuff, and that one caught my eye. If not, if for no other reason, the cover with Batman punching Guy Gardner.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
And when
and
you said the Jerks issue, I thought, oh, Guy Gardner must be in that one.
oh yeah, right there on the cover.
That was my first thought.
Okay, now I'm just going to come through pages which you can edit out. But oh wait, I think I'm done. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am done. I am done. The only other thing I wanted to ask you about were those adult coloring books because there was a page with some
Oh,
adult coloring books. You ever
yeah.
see those?
I've seen him. Well, I've seen him in previews and stuff, but yeah,
Have you ever seen the level of detail of what these pictures are
mm,
in the books? I talked about this on my most recent episode with Rich from the comic book store. I can't see how that's relaxing to color, to color in these pictures that are so detailed that you would really have to concentrate on them. I know I'm a perfectionist. I think I would go nuts with my OCD.
well, that and I would want to have really good markers or some
Hmm.
whatever you're going to use to color with.
Right. Yeah.
Your typical buy for elementary school markers just won't do it, in
No.
my opinion. So then I got to plunk down a bunch of money for like Copic markers or something, right?
I bought a Doctor Who coloring book, saw what the pictures looked like in there, and said, I can't do this. Like you say, well, I have to buy professional grade markers. And I was going to order the Little Marvels and the Wonder Woman one that was solicited in previews a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But I said, no, they're just going to sit on the shelf because I'm never going to get to this Doctor Who one that I just bought. And
Yeah.
I was excited for it too. I figured in the wintertime when the snow's on the ground, it's something to do. But that sucker might just sit on the shelf. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye out for these coloring variants, if you will. I don't know if that's the
Mm,
right term, to see if they end up in like bargain bins or something.
yeah.
I might
Oh,
pick up
and
some of that.
would you take a shot at them though to color them then?
Oh, if I find the right one, if I had
Yeah.
like a Nightwing or a Grayson one, sure,
Uh-huh. Give
I'd
it a
do that.
shot. Yeah. And I've heard of artists doing it, and not even professional artists, up and comers, people who do it on the side. And I've heard that as they tackle those variant covers, maybe with the intention of selling them, they improve over time as they do them. And you can see the progression of their improvement if you were to put all the covers side by side. The guy from the comics, Rich from the comic shop, told me that.
Oh wow.
There's a guy who comes into the store, bought a bunch of them, and he saw maybe by his fifth one, he kind of got into a groove, so much so that he rebought uh, other duplicate copies of the ones he had started with so that he could do them again.
Huh.
And then he saw the difference between the first one he did and then his second attempt. So right there, that's too much work for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough time to recollate my collection, let alone color a bunch of books.
Yeah, and I will be honest with you. Now that we're off of the previews talk and we're winding down, I am a little envious of you that you have been at least trying to recatalog your stuff. That is something I am way overdue on doing. And again, that goes so down to the bottom of the pile of the list of things to do that it's never going to get done, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, speak of first world problems, man. I feel like this I have this pressure to get this done. There's so many comics in my room right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of the box and out of the boxes, and that bugs me. That this is my OCD coming out, but um
I hear you.
it's
I'm with you.
my office is a mess and I can't
Mhm.
stand it. So,
It's like anything else that has to be filed.
yeah.
I remember at work, if you don't keep up with the filing, all of a sudden now it becomes a 1 month job. And that 1 month has to be focused on getting everything filed and getting everything back to the way it should be. But that's work where you're being paid to do that for 8 or 10 hours, as boring and as
Mhm.
frustrating as it may be. When it's your own personal life, there are so many other things that take precedence that it, at least here, it's not going to get done, and not anytime soon. I need a ton of blizzards for me to even think that I'm going to get to that. So there's no way even before Christmas that anything like that's going to happen here in the Boiler Room studio.
I know. I feel like I need to take a week off of work just so I could do my comic collection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And I
I'd
was
be
disappointed we didn't get enough snow this year.
Yeah, yeah. Ah, oh well. The
Get
the
off my lawn, Eric.
the problems of comic book collectors, right?
Yeah, if these were the
The
only
silly
problem,
problems.
yeah, I mean, if this was the only problem everybody in the world had, the world would be a better place.
For sure.
Hmm.
For sure. Well, George, thank you so much for joining me on this supersized edition of
Yeah,
the
thanks. So,
solicitations.
are you putting out an hour every day next week,
Oh my gosh.
Monday through Friday? Is that how this is going to go?
Well, like I said, I really appreciate you doing this, especially since I know that you are staying up horrendously late to
Well,
record with me.
I hope your listeners are never going to want me back on because I kept you on for 5 hours. But I want everybody to know that this did eat into my Golden Girls time on the Home channel, and it's going to be very difficult to go to sleep without having my daily dose of 2 hours worth of Sophia.
Uh,
So I
right?
I just want you to know that.
Oh, George, you crack me up. Uh, all right. Well, as I said, I've kept you way too late, so we should get out of here, George, so we can
Yes,
both
yes, we
go to
should.
bed.
Well, I think in the time that we did this episode, I think the next issue of previews came out. So you just want to do it?
Might as well, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
All right, man. Thank
all
you for
right.
having me.
Well, certainly, George. Why don't you again tell the fine folks who you are, where you're at, and all that good stuff?
Yes, you have been listening to George Hanna Babble along with Eric right now, taking his time. I am from the George and Tony Entertainment Show. You can find our show on iTunes or georgeandtony.com. We're also on SoundCloud and a bunch of other podcast apps out there. We're a show not only about comics, although we do talk about comics a lot, and we have a lot of guests on the show in the comic book world and from our local shop to talk behind the scenes. But we also just talk about our lives and other things in pop culture. We have guests from all over the place. Again, especially since my co-host has been a little scarce lately, we guests take his place. So we do have a lot of guests from all over the realm of pop culture. Check out our archives. You'll I think hopefully you'll find something that would interest you in our archives.
And they certainly will, because I've been enjoying a lot of your back catalog, George, with your interviews with people.
Oh, thank you. And of course, if you are willing to sample any of our shows, and you don't even want to start with what's out there this week, go back to episode 98 because you're going to hear a gentleman named Eric from a show called Longbox Review, and I think you'll enjoy that episode.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. It's a little shorter than this one, if I recall
Oh
correctly.
yeah,
That's because
definitely.
we didn't tackle previews.
Yeah, well, that's because you were in charge, George. That's why.
No, it's all previews' fault.
All right. Okay. Well, again, thank you, George. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking with me about this. This was a lot of fun. I usually do this by myself, and it's a lot more fun to talk with someone about these things, even if we do go long.
I agree with you. Like I said, I've always wanted to do a previews type of episode. So thank you for inviting me on to let this be my first one. Thank you.
You are very welcome. I want to I want to remind everyone, though, since this is episode 99 of the show, and big episode 100 is forthcoming. Uh, Let me know if you have any feedback for me, if you have any suggestions for topics, if you have any questions for me. Like I said, if you have a favorite episode that you'd like to tell me about, to talk about, or some moment, like perhaps moments from this episode with George, you can always let me know
Ha!
that. And because I would love to include either audio clips, or I will read from emails or tweets or whatever. So if you would be so kind and let me know these things, I would really appreciate it. And you can do so by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can also tweet at me at longboxreview. And there are other various methods. I actually have a voicemail number. I have a SpeakPipe. You can leave an audio message via SpeakPipe. All that information is at longboxreview.com. If you go to the contact tab and click there, and then click away and send me your feedback, I would really appreciate that, guys. And with that, I think we are done, George.
Thank you again for having me on.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for listening. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.